across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Welcome to Drive Time. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for the next 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000. Lots to talk about today. Or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, February the 4th. Here's what's coming up. Basically, Peter Mandelson. And a bit more Peter Mandelson and some Prince Andrew, as he used to be known, the Prince formerly, or the Andrew Mountbatten, formerly known as Prince. The favourite thing I've heard today is the suggestion that now Keir Starmer is saying that he's going to take Mandelson's peerage away. Will Peter Mandelson from now on be known as Peter Mountbatten Windsor? 0344 499 1000. What would you like him to be known as? Remember, it's a family show. The team here have been discussing what the movie of Peter Mandelson's story would be. What would be the title? I was thinking about Apocalypse Now, but perhaps that's a little bit too epic. And who would play Peter Mandelson? Here's a clue. It wouldn't be Brad Pitt. If you've got any ideas about that, let me know. 0344 499 1000. As I say, we'll also talk about Prince Andrew, also standing accused, like Peter Mandelson, of essentially selling state secrets, potentially to both China and Russia. Don't for a moment expect or imagine that Andrew is innocent in all of this. Allegedly. Now, so you've got Mandelson and Andrew right in the frame, so we'll be talking about that throughout the show. Peter Blexamy will join me later on to talk about how we go way too easily with paedophiles. And Samara Gill will be in to talk about her brilliant interview with Shahid Butt. He is the convicted terrorist who wants to be a councillor in Birmingham. That's very special, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. And at the end of the show, I'm going to be joined by our royal guru, Kinsey Schofield. Lots to talk about. Andrew, of course, under the dead of night, skulked out of Windsor Great Park, his home royal lodge there, and made his way to his new reduced circumstances cottage with about 10 bedrooms or something in Sandringham up in Norfolk. So he's gone from Windsor Great Park, but he is not gone from our nightmare. We'll talk about that with Kinsey later on the show, but let's get cracking, because my God, we've got a lot to get through to today on Drive Time. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan. You are an amazing audience. Let's get going, shall we? Let's go straight over to Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, just another extraordinary day involving Peter Mandelson. This is fast evolving into potentially one of the greatest political scandals, if not general scandals, in British history. Dan Hodges writing very powerfully in today's Daily Mail, and he's been around a while. He said, this is the biggest scandal of my lifetime. Now, Mandelson, of course, is finished and is being investigated, is being thrown under the bus by the establishment, and may well end up in Wormwood Scrubs or a similar jail. Prince Andrew's in trouble as well. Don't for a second imagine that that guy is not involved in all of this as well. But we heard Question Time today. Kemi Badenoch, I thought, to be fair, on forensic good form. Absolutely perfect performance. Before I get your thoughts, let's take a look at Kemi bombarding Keir with extremely uncomfortable questions today.
The whole House will be disgusted by the latest revelations about Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. All of us want to see his victims get justice. Yeah. But the political decision to appoint Epstein's close associate, Peter Mandelson, as Britain's ambassador to Washington goes to the very heart of this Prime Minister's judgment. Yeah. When he made that appointment, Was he aware that Mandelson had continued his friendship even after Epstein's conviction for child prostitution?
Mr. Speaker, let me start where I must, with the victims of Epstein, and all of our thoughts are with them. Can I also say our thoughts are with all those who lost jobs, savings and livelihoods in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crash. To learn that there was a cabinet minister leaking sensitive information at the height of the response to the 2008 crash is beyond infuriating. And I am as angry as the public and any member of this House. Mandelson betrayed our country, our Parliament and my party. Mr. Speaker, he lied repeatedly to my team when asked about his relationship with Epstein before and during his tenure as ambassador. I regret appointing him.
Not me, Gov. Don't blame me. That's what that is all about, Isabel. Just saying that he was a victim of Mandelson's lies. How did he know he was lying? Because Mandelson opened his mouth. He was an inveterate liar, obviously. Now, in those questions today, Kemi Bay, not quite rightly, said, what were you informed about Peter Mandelson in the vetting process before you appointed him to the most senior diplomatic role in the nation, that is, ambassador to Washington? Were you informed about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein? Answer, yes. That is incendiary, if you ask me. This guy, I think, appointed this liar, this duplicitous liar, to that crucial role of ambassador to Washington for Great Britain in the full knowledge that he had conducted a friendship for a very long time with an extremely dodgy individual who went on to become a convicted paedophile. That answer, I think, may be the end for Starmer. That's dreadful, isn't it?
Well, I think today is a watershed in Sir Keir Starmer's dying premiership. There's an absolute feeling in the House of Commons this afternoon that Starmer is in the last phases of his time in Downing Street. Very significant, actually, what happened after Prime Minister's questions, when there was a debate on these matters, an opposition debate on these matters. And guess who was sitting on the front bench on her own? One Angela Rayner.
Oh, yes.
Highly unusual for the former Deputy Prime Minister, now technically a backbencher, to appear in that capacity in an opposition debate like that, and to apparently be siding with those who were criticising her own boss and the judgments he's made around this. I think that we could see Starmer struggle to survive even by the by-election at the end of this month. Of course, the general view has been that he would be ousted after the May elections. It looks increasingly questionable whether he can possibly last anything like that long. I think that the party chiefs, Labour Party chiefs, have been taken aback by the mutinous mood on their own backbenches. Labour MPs are hopping mad about this, and they were hopping mad about the way that Keir Starmer has driven their party to the brink of, electoral wipeout. That's what the polls show, and he's so desperately unpopular. That was before all of this, and now we get this. And I think they are absolutely red hot, boiling mad, and he's going to be lucky to survive the end of this month.
Now, Angela Rayner, as you quite rightly point out, she is joining this growing rebellion of Labour MPs who are having no truck with Starmer's self-serving proposal to release documents, the files, the Mandelson files, if you like, the vetting process files, but to redact anything that may be a matter of national security. We know what that means. And Angela Rayner and the rebel MPs, and of course all the rest of the MPs, the Tories, the Lib Dems, all of them, are saying, no national security. You need to show us everything. This is crucial. So Labour MPs are seeing this is now an important national security issue, and we cannot have any political games about, oh, we'll let you see everything apart from matters of national security. That isn't going to wash, is it?
Well, the other thing they want is for this whole absolute disaster, this whole debacle, to be examined by the Intelligence and Security Committee, not for it to be kept sort of in the realms of the Cabinet Office to rake over. And MPs across the House feel, and I listened to some of the debate today with Tory MPs and MPs from the different parties joining together to call for an investigation by the Intelligence and Security Committee, which is a cross-party committee. And they feel that that is the only way to actually get real scrutiny, rather than this government marking its own homework. And I think that the Labour government may well have to buckle on that one if they haven't done so already. The events are moving incredibly fast, Kev. This story is developing by the moment. So goodness knows what's happened since we've been on air.
I think I was just looking at Angela Rayner making a speech in the Commons. That would be interesting. I know that she said that she's as angry as the public about Mandelson. And I think she is, for once in her life, representing the forces of good here. She believes the public and, of course, Parliament have the right to know everything that led up to the appointment of Peter Mandelson, not to allow Keir Starmer to say, oh, well, that's a secret, we can't tell you that. Not this time, Keir, not this time. Let me ask you, we're going to talk about Mandelson a little bit more, because I think there are some extraordinary allegations circulating about exactly what he was getting up to. It could well be it was much more than just flogging a few secrets to Jeffrey Epstein. He could have been selling secrets, it is alleged, to our mortal enemies such as Russia, maybe China. I think he's a psychopath. I don't think he gives a damn. As long as he can make money for himself, he has no other moral investment in anything he ever did or ever will do. But let me ask you this one aspect of this saga that I think goes to the heart of the matter. What we're talking about here, this is the establishment on trial and the way they operate. The establishment normally would have folded around Mandelson and protected him, but when the establishment, the British establishment realises, oh, there's no saving this guy, what they then do is they chuck him under the bus ruthlessly in order to save their own backsides. Yes. That's the process we are in at the moment. But here is a tail end of an establishment system that we need to do something about. Downing Street, Keir's crew, is refusing to hand back, or to get back, the six-figure payoff, the six-figure sum payoff that Peter Mandelson got when he was sacked from being the ambassador to Washington, our man in Washington. He got a six-figure payoff, even though he was sacked in disgrace. Now, people are saying, well, you've got to get that money back. Downing Street is saying, oh, no, that's an HR matter. To hell with that. Get that money back. That is to hand a man who's been sacked in disgrace a six-figure payoff is in itself a disgrace. That is the way the establishment works. This guy and so many other like him, Mandelson, has been lining his pocket with these sweet deals that these politicians give each other, working for the EU, where, you know, parliamentary roles, ministerial roles, and a six-figure sum for being sacked in disgrace. The taxpayer deserves that money to be retrieved, does it not?
Well, I would agree with that. And isn't it so reminiscent of the Hugh Edwards payoff, which to the best of my knowledge, we haven't got back either. You know, people have just paid their self-assessment. Many people have just paid their self-assessment. And, you know, whether they had to pay £5,000, £10,000, £50,000, that money contributes to Peter Mandelson's payoff. It just does. And that really, really sticks in the throat, doesn't it? Yeah. And in terms of what Mandelson was really up to and who he was really working for, I think there are growing questions as to whether he has been over these years a Russian asset? Has he been helping, wittingly or unwittingly, knowingly or unknowingly? Has he in fact been helping the Russian regime? The Labour Party are all too eager all the time to accuse reform politicians entirely without foundation of having links to Russia and protecting Russia, like being apologists for Putin and so on. Well, we now know that there were very strong links between Epstein and Russian sources. To what extent was Mandelson caught up in that? We know that some years ago he was very close to the Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska. That is completely in the public domain. How far did this go? These are entirely reasonable questions to ask, since we know the guy is a liar.
Yeah, and I believe in Poland they are investigating Peter Mandelson's activities with a view to their suspicion that he was selling secrets to Putin, to the Kremlin.
Well, there you go. I don't think this is outlandish in the slightest. I just repeat, cast back to that connection with the Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, which is very much in the public domain. And ask yourself also, how has Peter Mandelson managed to get so rich over the years? Sure, he's not a billionaire, he's not a squillionaire, but he is a very wealthy man. And one way or another, he has been finding some very, very nice consultancy roles. Question mark, who for?
Yeah, as I say, my view is Peter Mandelson's a psychopath, maybe a sociopath. Never quite know the difference between those two, but he's
a
one,
sociopath.
He's,
I'm afraid
he's one
a lot
of
of
those
politicians
two.
are, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he might be a psychopath, and I think people, Ian Collins, saying, "Oh, he lusted for power." Yeah, he enjoyed power. What he really lusted for was money. You know, his motto was, "I'm Mandy, by me." Simple as that. This guy is a disgrace. I think we've had a psychopath at the heart of British politics for several generations, and that is extremely worrying. It's not only Starmer's judgment that is on the rack here. So is Gordon Brown's. So is Tony Blair. These are the guys that brought this guy up. These are the guys that appointed him to these important governmental positions. And the fact that it was still going on under Starmer, the fact that Blair persuaded Starmer to appoint this lunatic, this psychopath, this man who seemed to be for sale to the job of ambassador to Washington. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. I agree with you. I don't think Starmer can last much longer. Isabel, fantastic stuff. Thank you so much for your time. Isabel Oakeshott there, Talks International editor. When we come back, we're going to discuss the Prince Andrew element of all this. Of course, Randy Andy skulked out of the Royal Lodge at Great Windsor Park under the cover of dark last night and made his way up to his new home in Sandringham, away from the public eye. Apparently the King was sick to death of seeing this oaf riding around Windsor Great Park on his horse with his silly hat on. Just said, get him out of there, get it. So his departure date was brought forward, and the King was also fed up seeing him driving around in his Range Rover and leaving Windsor Great Park, waving to the photographers and the public. Where was he going? Where was he going when he drove out? Where does he go on these drives? Unbelievable. We'll talk about the royal aspect, Randy Andy's decline and fall after these messages. Stay tuned.
I'm one of those journalists, the many journalists who said it, that although it was a high-risk appointment bringing back Peter Mandelson, he would do a good job sucking up to Trump and getting a trade deal. And all the evidence all the evidence is that in his 6 months he did that.
And I said quite the opposite, that it wasn't worth the risk and that he was damaged goods.
Yeah, but that's
and
what a risk is. You know, it might pay off, it might not pay off.
And it was it's worked out really well, hasn't it?
Exactly, it's exploded
but
all over
it was
everybody.
Always going to explode all over everybody.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Messages and phone calls piling in. What do you think of the Mandelson scandal? Does Keir Starmer have to go? Should Mandelson go to jail? I think he should go to jail. I think they should chuck the key away. 03444991000. We're going to talk about Prince Andrew in just a little while. Should he go to jail? Why should he get away with it just because he's a member of the royal family? Looks to me as if he's been up to almost as much bad as Mandy. We'll talk about that in a second. But here's a voice note from Pete on the Mandelson scandal.
I watched that PMQs there. He looked very lonely. Did Keir Starmer, mate. There was no finger pointing from his front bench. David Lammy wasn't sat next to him. Everyone, he just looked lonely, mate. Lonely. He looked guilty as charged, should we say. I bet you he's gone by the end of the week.
It's an interesting, I mean, his days must be numbered. They can't go on like this, and I think Angela Rayner is on manoeuvres. Angela, for once in her life, fighting for the forces of right. This government cannot be allowed to redact the vetting process that led to the disastrous appointment of Peter Mandelson as our man in Washington. We have to know the facts. Was Keir Starmer advised? We believe the intelligence services advised him to be very careful. He said in Parliament that he knew all about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. You knew all about it? And then you gave him that job? What's wrong with you, Starmer? What is wrong with you? Good luck on the dole. Now, we've got a breaking news here. MPs and peers on the Intelligence and Security Committee are set to decide what documents relating to Lord Mandelson's appointment as US ambassador will be released after a climb down by Keir Starmer. All of them. All of them. None of this national security nonsense. We need to know. We need to know. This is about transparency, but we'll keep an eye on what the Intelligence and Security Committee decide going forward. Now, let's now talk about Prince Andrew, or the Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince, with royal commentator Michael Cole. Hello, Michael. Good to see you.
Kevin, it's a pleasure to see you.
Under unfortunate circumstances, of course, if you happen to be Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Now, he skulked out under the cover of dark last night. The King apparently sick to death of seeing him riding his horse in Windsor Great Park, sick to death of seeing him mysteriously driving out of Windsor Great Park in his Range Rover. Where does he go? I wish I knew. So, right, you've got to go now. We're sick of it. Get yourself up to Sandringham. So he went up to Sandringham, but boy, oh boy, did he go there under a cloud. There are suggestions. People are saying, while he was trade envoy in the noughties, that he spent an inordinate amount of time with Xi Jinping in China, an inordinate amount of time with Kremlin officials, and just like, these are only allegations, of course, but just like the allegations now escalating against Peter Mandelson, Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew, stands accused potentially of selling secrets to our enemies, Russia and China. This is getting very serious, Michael.
It's a very serious situation. In fact, things could hardly be more serious for the royal family. As you say, the former Prince Andrew, there riding his horse only a couple of days ago in Windsor Great Park, has been evicted from the Royal Lodge, and I heard you call it the Royal Lodge earlier, which would have pleased King George V, who always insisted that the Royal Lodge should have the definite article in front of it.
There you go.
Has been banished to the equivalent of outer darkness. which is North Norfolk, where he's going to be staying at Wood Farm, where the Duke of Edinburgh, his late father, lived until his death, and quite an historic house in itself. It was the home where the lost prince, Prince George, the youngest child of King George V and Queen Mary, who was intellectually challenged throughout his life. He lived and died there as a very young man, was very rarely ever seen in public. And after that, he's apparently going to stay there until April, and then he'll move
to a slightly bigger place. Well, what do you think? What do you think, Michael? You know, the king we know was exasperated by this horse riding and this sort of driving around in public as if he didn't have a care in the world. But also the king this morning and yesterday will have been absolutely dismayed and indeed disgusted about new revelations surrounding Prince Andrew as he was then. You know, this awful sordid story of him and Epstein in a threesome with an exotic dancer, a stripper, who then went on to sue Epstein for $250,000, saying he hadn't paid up for her services. Andrew accused of being involved in this. And frankly, the more you see of this, the more you hear of these allegations against Andrew, I'm beginning to think, Michael, there are no depths below which this oaf Andrew will not sink.
Well, as you've said, it could hardly get worse, and yet every day, with every new revelation, it does get worse and worse.
Yes.
The king was quite right to act as promptly as he did to strip him of all his titles, honours, stylings, and ranks, and reduce him to ordinary people like you and me, who are proud to call ourselves Mr. There you see him in happier times when he's endeavouring to engage the public. I'm not sure whether the public were keen to talk to him or would be now. It is a very serious situation. The king has taken every step he could reasonably to distance himself or distance the royal family and the monarchy from his presence, and try and put a cordon sanitaire between the monarchy and the former Prince Andrew. And but he can't get away from the fact that he's his brother. There's a big age difference between them, but he's his brother, and he's been moved out of a Crown Estates property, which was the Royal Lodge, up to the Royal Estate at Sandringham, which is personally owned by the monarch, and there he will live. We don't know quite how. I'm sure he'll find some friends up there who will stay loyal to him. And I understand, Kevin, there's some extremely pleasant golf courses in North Norfolk, so perhaps they'll be
a bit flat, though, a bit flat, you know what I mean, but not too many hill challenges. Let me ask you...
It was Noel Coward who said very flat Norfolk.
Yeah, that's right, that was a Noel Coward.
But North Norfolk is not flat.
Well, listen, let me ask you about Fergie, Sarah Ferguson. She apparently is kind of homeless. And there are some serious allegations against her as well of impropriety involving Jeffrey Epstein. And I think it's extraordinary that the day after his release from jail, after serving his sentence for child sex abuse paedophile offences, Fergie took B and Eugenie to see him for lunch. Now, people say, oh, those poor girls. Well, frankly, they were 19 and 20 at the time. I think perhaps they might have some questions to answer. But what do you think will become of the awful Sarah Ferguson?
Well, it's hard to know. Her daughters, their daughters, will obviously have got that affection for their parents. Of course, they would have. But those girls haven't been put in an easy situation. They have to live with it. It's difficult. They've got families of their own, children and so on. And it's difficult for them, extraordinarily so. And as we say, there we see them in her happier times, the two princesses, Eugenie and Beatrice. I'm sure that there's a lot going through their minds, and their mother too. You know, Kevin, in 1986, which is nearly 40 years ago, I did the first interview.
Because you were the doyen of the royal correspondence. You were, of course, the BBC's royal man. A hell of a job.
Well, that was the first interview with Anthony Carthew of ITN on the day they were engaged. And the Daily Mail said at the time, reprinted the whole of it and said it's the most revealing royal interview ever. And of course, when they became the Duke and Duchess of York, which I predicted they would, and they did, they were greeted as a breath of fresh air. They were warmly welcomed. He was, of course, fairly freshly back, a couple of years, 4 years before, from the Falklands War, where he served as a helicopter pilot and put himself in harm's way, or was put in harm's way. They couldn't have been more popular. So when you see this fall from grace, it has all the elements of tragedy. But you can't say they haven't brought it upon themselves by these very, very sad things that have emerged.
Let me ask you this, Michael. As I say, as the former BBC royal correspondent, a man who knew the royal family well in those days, do you think? I mean, if these revelations about Andrew get worse, if, for example, as some people suspect, he was selling secrets to this nation's enemies, that would. These are only allegations, of course, but if they turn out to be true, that will present the royal family with an existential problem, won't it?
That's a very, very, very serious allegation, of course. I would like to think that it wasn't true. It would have to be proved. In his time as a trade representative of this country, an ambassador, if you will, he did spend a lot of time in the stands, what he called the stands, you know, Kazakhstan and other former republics, which were once part of the Soviet Union. We don't know what went on, and perhaps it requires further investigation. But I always believed that his heart was in the right place, and therefore these revelations, as they come one by one, are really that much more shocking. You wouldn't have believed that these things could possibly happen, but they have, and I'm afraid they're only the result of stupidity and
arrogance and entitlement. It really is that, Michael. Let's hope that the King navigates the royal family's way out of this mess, but it's getting worse. It's really, really upsetting, I think, but not only for the royal family, but for patriots all over this country, and I know for you too. Michael, thank you so much. Good to talk to you again. That's Michael Cole, royal commentator, former BBC royal editor, who knows all about the royal family. Let's go to break. We're going to talk about something very different when we come back. We are going to talk about paedophiles and the sentences, the jail sentences they don't get, and another appalling asylum seeker sex crime with Peter Blexley. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
I was just saying, you could tell that Keir Starmer was very troubled in PMQ's Prime Minister's questions today, because for the first time in living memory, he didn't mention Liz Truss. He was very sombre and clearly realised he was in a world of trouble, which indeed he is. Here's a voice note on the Mandelson affair from Peds.
He's been caught out lying twice before and lost his position. Starmer brings him back in for a third time. And the blame lies at his door. The blame lies at Starmer's door. But the thing that I picked up on this afternoon in PMQs was every single one of the front bench sat behind Starmer and never moved. They sat stony-faced as if to say they know it's his fault. And every one of them are usually heckling, usually shouting, not a peep from them. And it's down to Starmer.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Peds, I think all of those front benchers, all those cabinet secretaries and ministers were sitting there in the Commons today thinking, I wonder who our next boss will be. Angela Rayner. Let's move on. Let's go straight to my next guest, former Met Police Detective Peter Bleksley. Welcome, Pete.
Good afternoon.
Let's talk about this is a story that I wanted to put to you. This is the story of a good police officer, clearly, who investigated a guy called Jordan Cave, 28-year-old IT technician at the top London grammar school, the Latimer School in Edmonton. Now, he was found to be in possession of thousands of horrific child abuse images and also had a video of his own vile attack on a 12-year-old boy, a victim. He attacked him and filmed it and kept this video. This guy, incredibly, did not go to jail. The recorder, Mariam Syed, insisted that it was not lenient to spare Cave from jail because she said of his onerous and hard conditions, including a 4-month curfew, 200 hours of unpaid work, 20 days of rehabilitation activity, 26 sessions on a difficult sex offender programme and a 10-year sexual harm prevention order and £800 in compensation to his victims. No, Mariam Syed, that's not good enough. This guy attacked a 12-year-old boy, had a massive cache of disgusting child sex images. Send the SOB to jail.
It is with a very heavy heart that I depressingly predict, without fear of contradiction, that Jordan Cave, this 28-year-old revolting, convicted paedophile, will simply go on to commit further offences, thereby creating further victims and further harm. Of that, I am absolutely sure. Ask any experienced detective who has spent a long time investigating paedophiles, and they will tell you that people like him are beyond rehabilitation. They have gone beyond a corner that simply cannot be turned any further. They are not able to be rehabilitated. And recorder Mariam Syed, I'm so pleased you mentioned her name. She has failed to impose the will of the people. The people want people like Jordan Cave locked up, and she's failed to do that, thereby earning her the sobriquet that I would give her as an enemy of the people.
Well, that's very strong words, and I tend to agree with you. She said at Snaresbrook Book Crown Court on Monday, actually, as Mr. Cave was let off, frankly, got this lenient sentence. She said, I could have sent you to prison for 4, 5 or 6 years. Well, yeah, why didn't you? But she went, I could have sent you to prison for 4, 5, 6 years, but I have to bear in mind your young age, lack of maturity, specific psychological and psychiatric disorders. The reason they are relevant is because they go to your frame of mind. What a load of claptrap.
Absolutely. Of course, ADHD, autism, which I understand are diagnoses that can present challenges for people, but of course it was almost inevitable that he would rock up with court claiming to have both of those conditions and claiming, of course, to not really appreciate the seriousness of his offending. He molested, he sexually assaulted a 12-year-old boy. And he filmed it for his own perverse, sick satisfaction. He filmed that, and together with thousands of other images upon which he satisfies his perverse, his warped, his behaviour is beyond the pale. It is utterly disgraceful. And there is one place only where people know if Jordan Cave was, that children would be safe, and that is a prison. It's where he belongs, and alas, he's not in one.
Yeah, we have this very strange policy, ask Hugh Edwards, BBC's in-house paedophile, of not sending pedos to jail on their first house. They are. We need to recalibrate that. That is wrong. That is wrong. There is no more dangerous an individual than a paedophile, because, as you quite rightly say, you cannot rehabilitate them. They will always return to their crimes. One other guy who should have gone to jail but hasn't in our ridiculous country. This is a 70-year-old migrant called Chowdhury Zaman, who kissed a 12-year-old girl, forcibly held her hand as she was walking home from school, told her to cover her head and not tell anyone. He has been let off. CCTV, the judge Amjad Nawaz said, CCTV shows you holding her hand. She says she did not want to. Her hand was forcibly held, so on and so forth. But he didn't go to jail because of his age. This was at Reading Crown Court because he's 70 years old. He was 68 at the time of committing this offence. Well, there's two things I would say about this. Again, this is a paedophile offence, and I think all paedophiles should go to jail. Secondly, what has his age got to do with it? And since he is a migrant who apparently is here legally, we should make that illegal and deport him, don't you think?
You have quite brilliantly highlighted two cases which point out the utter ridiculousness of this sentencing here. A 28-year-old not jailed because of his age. A 70-year-old not jailed because of his age. So who exactly is of an age whereby one of these pathetic, woke, liberal, fluffy and captured judges will actually jail someone? And I say again, Judge Amjad Nawaz did not abide by the will of the people. He did not jail this revolting, predatory paedophile who approached a 12-year-old girl as she sat alone on a bench. He forcibly grabbed her hand. He kissed her on the face against her will. What a revolting, traumatizing, disgusting thing which will cause trauma possibly for years, possibly forever, on a 12-year-old girl. And once again, he's not jailed. So once again, we have a judge not abiding by the will of the people, therefore, in my opinion, being an enemy of the people.
Zaman got 9 months suspended prison sentence, so in other words, not prison, 80 hours of unpaid work in the community and a restraining order for 5 years that prohibits him from going anywhere near that girl's school. In other words, he was let off. Absolute disgrace. Pete, let me ask you one question just quickly before you go. If you were still, and I wish you were, still a Met Police detective, from what you've heard, and you were handed the Mandelson case to investigate, do you think that would be a bit of an open and shut case? Would you relish the thought of having a go at that?
It would be. My attitude and my investigation would be to go on a tireless, thorough, professional search for the truth, without distractions, without political interference, without pressure from outside. Search for the truth, find the truth, present it, and then let the CPS, if need be, and the courts run their case thereafter.
I reckon if you were still a cop and you were on the Mandelson case, Mandy would be in more trouble, even more trouble than he's in now. Pete, great to talk to you. Peter Brexley there, former Met detective. After the break, Samara Gill, our ace reporter, will be in the studio. She has interviewed that terrorist, that convicted terrorist who wants to be a councillor in Birmingham. His name is Shahid Butt, and he is refusing to butt out of our democratic system. We'll talk to Samara next. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to Talk Down the Local. Tonight, we're at McCafferty's in Epsom in Surrey.
Raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of this desperation. I think it's almost a plea for help.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Seats, and that's about it. Actually, I quite like Seats.
People coming to the pub and drinking 0% alcoholic drinks, they're still coming to the pub and doing trade.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going, but I have 0% beers and I feel
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, this is becoming a regular thing. Guess who's in the studio? It's my former producer, now our ace reporter. She doesn't like being called a reporter, but I don't know what else to call her. Samara Gill. Hi, Samara.
Hello, how are you?
I'm all right. Now, Samara, in her role as our ace reporter, has been up to Birmingham to interview Shahid Butt. He is the convicted terrorist who did 5 years in jail in Yemen, who wants to be a councillor, is going to stand as a councillor in that great city, Britain's second city. Here's what Shahid had to tell her.
Did post this video that's now kind of gone a little bit viral and it's quite controversial. You said Muslims are not pacifists. If someone comes into your face, knock his teeth out. That's my message to the youth. I mean, why should anyone believe you're some sort of force for calm or unifier, as you claim to be, if you're sort of advocating for knocking people's teeth out?
Controversy sells.
Is that what you're trying to do? Launder your reputation through the ballot box?
No. I mean, look, I don't need to do stunts to make myself known. I'm already a known person. You know, this is not my first.
I mean, but this was a pretty recent comment. You know, you say you're a reformed individual, but you're saying that someone to knock someone's teeth.
Yeah,
out.
I'll clarify that. I'll clarify that. Under British law, yeah, and everybody needs to go and check this, and maybe you can put it in the comments.
Yep.
Under British law, you are allowed what's called a preemptive strike. So if you feel that your life is threatened, if somebody comes in your space, you don't have to wait for that person to hit you. You are allowed to hit them. This is British law, not my law.
Well, that's interesting, because I wouldn't mind going to see old Mr. Butt and give that one a go, eh? You know, come on then.
It was. Look,
I mean, seriously. I mean, there he is, you know, preaching violence again. This is a guy who said that no Muslims, Muslims must never be friends with Jews or Christians. He is a guy who's part of this really disconcerting, frightening independent candidates alliance. up there, which is an organisation that will be fielding more than 60 Muslim candidates in what is being seen as an Islamic takeover of an already very Islamic city, Birmingham. Parts of Birmingham are very Islamic. So he's all part of that. And he's trying to be all kind of reasonable, but he's still preaching violence, how to knock your teeth out, and under British law it's okay. It's not actually, Shahid. Don't do that at home, folks.
They're obsessed with finding ways around British law. I mean, Ahmed Yaqub, our good friend here on the station,
good old Ahmed.
He made a great video, I say great in quotation marks, about how to hide a baseball bat. And all these comments were made around the time that the Maccabi Tel Aviv drama was ensuing and they were trying to ban Jews from Birmingham. So I just want to offer that context as well. That's why I really wanted to press him on it. I think it's interesting because I think immigration policies have brought this on us. I almost feel like someone like Shahid Butt is just a product of what has happened. His constituency, or who he's trying to represent, they're 91% ethnic minority, 70% of them are Muslim. So they say that, and he's got lots of bad words to say about Labour. That's sort of where we aligned. He hates Labour.
Yeah.
He hates them.
I heard some of the interview and sort of disconcertingly, I found myself going, well, I'm with him on Labour.
Well, totally. It's this new brand of almost like Islamic conservatism that's mixed with complete left-wing claptrap as well, that has completely infiltrated some of these communities, especially around Birmingham. So, as I said, we only have people like Keir Starmer and the flip-flop of the Labour government to blame for people like Shahid Butt and Ahmed Yaqub running 60 different candidates, as you said, on a Gaza ticket. It's going to be a massive problem in the future. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah, they've already got MPs in Birmingham who are basically MPs for Gaza. Now, you know, when Robert Jenrick, when he was a Tory, remember those times? He went to Handsworth, very Muslim area of Birmingham. Only 4% of people who live there aren't Islamic. And he said he walked around for an hour and a half and didn't see a single white face. He said didn't want to live in a country like that. I don't have any problem with that at all. I don't have a problem with a multicultural society. My problem with Handsworth and places like it, and what these independent alliance people are trying to do, is that this isn't having different communities within this great country, no problem. But they don't integrate. That's the problem with places like Handsworth. They're isolated from the rest of the country, and these people, in essence, I believe, want to set up a kind of caliphate in the middle of Birmingham.
Yes, that's what it seems. I mean, even during the interview, obviously, as we've spoken about earlier on the station, he didn't condemn Hamas. He basically ingratiated October the 7th.
Didn't he say they're not a terrorist?
He said they're not a terrorist organisation. I doubled down and I said, so you're saying they're not a terrorist organisation? No, they're not a terrorist organisation. So these are the extreme Islamic views that he holds in order to appeal to his voters. And yes, I agree with you. I think the rhetoric during the interview was very interesting because he kept saying, my community, my community. And when I questioned him on what that meant, he basically did say that he meant kind of all the Muslim people within that community. And I don't think that's right, because I think if you're standing to be a councillor in a British area, then you should be representing everyone. There are a lot of white working class people that also need to be represented, people from other parts of Asia, Africa, etc. I don't think that, as you said, we should have these siloed off communities where they're only tending to each other's needs. And integration is a great thing. My own dad is an Indian immigrant who came to Australia and completely integrated, so much so that he got an Australian wife and had me, but that's a whole other story.
Well, that was a mistake, wasn't it?
But, you know, he embraces the country that gave him the golden ticket and the big opportunity. And when we had immigration in really small numbers, that is what it used to be. But now it's just gone off. It's just gone completely into a horrible, horrible sort of dynamic where we have got these 91% communities, which isn't good for anyone.
So Mr. Butt and his acolytes in the Independent Candidates Alliance, I think they stand for exactly the problem that we have in multiculturalism. I think multiculturalism is great, except for too many of the multicultures that we have embraced don't integrate. They isolate. They form their own countries. We have, you know, loads of people in Birmingham who've lived there for decades, can't speak English, and Butt and his gang represent that.
Yes.
They like that. They represent isolationism, not integration. There's our problem.
Exactly right, and I think it's dangerous. It's very dangerous, and we will see a shift in the electorate. We just will. That's what's going to happen. I mean, the polling numbers for Labour in that area of Sparkhill are way down. You have got this sort of marriage of conservatism, a new wave of conservatism that we've seen with Reform, which is kind of on the conservative of the right. But then you've obviously got a lot of people falling out with Labour on the left. And so they're jumping onto other ships like the Green Party, like your party, etc. So I think the death of Labour is an equally dangerous thing to what the death of the Conservatives is to the left wingers. And we need to look at it closely, because at the moment, we've got a convicted terrorist standing to be a councillor who probably will win.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that. I think most of these candidates that the Independent Candidates Alliance put up, and they're all going to be, they say they're not all Muslims. Well, if for example, they say it's more than 60, if, for example, they put up 64, I guarantee you 62 of them will be Muslims. That's what this is about. And these people, because I had the ringleaders on my show, on this show earlier in the week, or was it last week?
They invited you for dinner, by the way, Kev, next time. I don't know what that is.
I don't know why, but I actually quite like them. I don't agree with what they stand for, but I do actually quite like them as people.
Hope they don't kick you in the teeth.
Yeah, don't knock my teeth out. There's a long story. There's a lot. I've got a lot of history with these, as regular viewers might know. But what they stand for, when I said, well, what do you think about banning Jewish football fans from Aston Villa, the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans? They said, we totally agree with that. We think all Israelis, all Jews should be banned from all sporting events, fans and teams alike. That's how extreme they are. Thank you, Samara, for giving us a glimpse into the increasingly extreme world of Birmingham, Britain's second city. 03444991000. When we come back, Adam Brooks will join us to take a look at some of the biggest stories of the day. Peter Mandelson. So that next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is talk.
Welcome back. Let's discuss some of the big stories of the day. Peter Mandelson with broadcaster, writer and pub landlord Adam Brooks. Welcome, Adam.
How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. Did you see Prime Minister's Question Time today?
Yeah, very exciting.
It was actually. The Tories and indeed all the opposition parties and many Labour MPs are saying to Starmer, in terms of the vetting process that led to you appointing the appalling Peter Mandelson to the crucial role of ambassador to Washington, Britain's man in America. We need to see every single bit of those details. He's saying, oh, yes, of course. But they're sticking a little amendment in saying, unless, of course, those details involve matters of national security. In other words, he's trying to redact some of it. He's trying to make sure that we don't know. Even his own MPs are saying, no, not this time, mate. You've got to be transparent. Two questions, really. He must be stopped from this, mustn't he? And even if he does succeed in blocking some of the information about Mandelson that we have a right to know, don't you think his days are numbered as Prime Minister?
I think one of the most evident things I took away from watching that PMQs was, did you see his hands shaking? I said it straight away on X. Keir Starmer's hands were shaking. He was visibly rattled. He kept turning the pages of his notes. He was really ruffled, and you can just tell that he knows his days are numbered. Of course, he's trying to cover this up. He's up to this in his neck, Kev. So what was a big thing for me is that Angela Rayner basically skewered him by saying that the Intelligence Committee needs to oversee these documents as well. What he's trying is a very clever sort of barrister law trick, where they know that a large proportion of that file is going to be unable to be seen by the everyday person because it does involve maybe matters between us and America. But with something so important, let's remember he has promoted to a high position the best friend of the world's most notorious paedophile. How does he come back for this? How?
Yeah, I mean, it looks to me, it looks to most people as it's possible that Peter Mandelson, throughout his long political career, might have been taking money to flog secrets. You know, what's extraordinary, do you remember earlier in the week, said, oh, yeah, the Epstein files said I received $25,000. I just don't recall that. Well, it now turns out that the Epstein files reveal, or allege, if you like, that he received $25,000 3 times. So 3 times he can't remember that. You cannot believe a word that this guy says. Now, I agree with you about Keir Starmer today. I've never seen him like this ever. But in PMQs, he looked like a broken man. He looked like a very nervous man. I didn't spot that his hands were shaking, but I'm not
really
surprised.
Badly.
And I'll tell you...
He had to hold them down, Kev. Sorry, mate. It was shaking so much, he had to grip his other hand.
Well, let's remind ourselves of this exchange between Kemi Badenoch and Keir Starmer in Prime Minister's Question Times earlier today.
The whole House will be disgusted by the latest revelations about Jeffrey Epstein. All of us want to see his victims get justice. But the political decision to appoint Epstein's close associate, Peter Mandelson, as Britain's ambassador to Washington goes to the very heart of this Prime Minister's judgment. When he made that appointment, was he aware that Mandelson had continued his friendship even after Epstein's conviction for child prostitution?
Mr. Speaker, let me start where I must with the victims of Epstein, and all of our thoughts are with them. Can I also say our thoughts are with all those who lost jobs, savings and livelihoods in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crash. To learn that there was a cabinet minister leaking sensitive information at the height of the response to the 2008 crash is beyond infuriating. And I am as angry as the public and any member of this House. Mandelson betrayed our country, our Parliament, and my party. Mr. Speaker, he lied repeatedly to my team when asked about his relationship with Epstein before and during his tenure as ambassador. I regret appointing him.
I'll bet you do. You're right, he looks very, very nervous. He looks like a broken man, I reckon, Adam. Now, the question, did you know about Mandelson's continuing friendship with Epstein? In the end, Starmer said he did. So he appointed Mandelson to the position, to the most important diplomatic role in British politics, the ambassador to America in Washington, in the full knowledge that this guy had a long friendship with a very dodgy American billionaire businessman. The intelligence services, we're told, warned Starmer about this, just as they warned him about the mega Chinese embassy in London. And on both occasions, it looks as if Keir Starmer overruled warnings from our intelligence services. Now, that makes our current Prime Minister a danger and a threat to British national security. And you can't say worse than that about our leader, any leader, can you?
No. I mean, I don't know anyone that does trust Keir Starmer. He's been a disaster for 18 months that he's been in. He's continually lied to us. And now, as you said there, promoting the best friend of the world-renowned paedophile to a US ambassador, when people like me, I'm sure you did as well, commentators all over X and social media were saying, what are you doing? We'd already seen the Times report on Epstein and Mandelson, their relationship. Some of this stuff was out in the open. So the government knew that, and I think Kemi actually brought that up. The Conservatives have Google. We know what you knew. And obviously the security service is saying that, or we're told that they advised not to promote him to this position. You have to ask yourself, and I'm not accusing Starmer of anything here, just to protect myself. I'm basically saying, it looks like to someone outside of politics that maybe Keir Starmer is compromised. And you only have to look at things like the Chinese embassy and other things that have gone on, the Chagos deal. They are doing things that do not make sense to anyone, whether that's the man in the pub, the street, or respected politicians. So many things are happening within this government that do not make sense. And you have to question what is driving them. And for me, it's just my opinion. It looks like this government is compromised.
I think you've got a very strong point there. Of course, well, certainly, arguably over generations since the Blair days, this country, this nation, has been compromised by a man in the highest positions in politics, Peter Mandelson, who I think is probably a psychopath. You know, people say, oh, he lusted after power. I don't think he lusted after power. He lusted after money. He'd do anything for money. You want a secret? I'll flog it to you. I'm Mandy. Buy me. Simple as that. We've got a serious problem here, and I do believe that Keir Starmer isn't going to recover from this scandal. Let me ask you about an element of this. This is how the establishment works. You remember when Mandelson, who, by the way, his only achievement in 6 months of being our ambassador in Washington, his only real achievement was to almost, thank God he didn't quite succeed, push through the Chagos deal, which is not, Chagos Islands, not exactly good for Britain. So that he goes, oh, I managed to do that. Oh, great, thanks, Pete. Another winner. But he was fired from that position when more details emerged of just how close he was with Epstein, just how compromising and dangerous to security his relationship was with that low-life paedophile, a very influential billionaire, by the way. So he apparently was asked by Starmer, so I think you better step down, Peter. He said, oh, I'm not doing that. You'll have to fire me. So he did fire him. So he was sacked in disgrace. Did you know that he was given a 6-figure payoff? taxpayers' money. Six-figure payoff for being sacked in disgrace. I think the government, as a matter of urgency, should get that taxpayers' money back from Mandelson. Don't you?
I didn't even know that. You've just told me that. What a slap in the face for the average man in this country. We're already getting taxed to high hill, record levels of tax. We're seeing people on benefits, many of whom shouldn't be on benefits, you know, game the system and get more money than ever. We've got corrupt politicians getting payoffs. This country is being run by idiots, and something's got to give. Now, with Mandelson, if these allegations are proved true, he will see out his life in prison, I believe. I mean, that is...
I think you're right, Adam. I think he's in big trouble. There's a criminal investigation going on. Gordon Brown has supplied the police with a lot of compromising evidence, apparently. So has the government. The establishment always protects its own until it realises that its own is beyond the pale. They cannot save Mandelson, so the establishment is doing what it always does. It is chucking him under the bus ruthlessly. But I think this time he's going to take everyone with him. I really do.
I believe he's going to take Starmer out. I think he holds a lot of secrets on Keir Starmer. And I think Keir Starmer is probably shaking and nervous because he knows that Mandelson can unveil some very dark secrets of the Prime Minister.
I think you're exactly right, Adam. Very quick word from you as a pub landlord. Nigel Farage had a press conference yesterday saying we'll bring down the price of a pint by going easy on pubs, by reducing business rates, by reducing national insurance payments, and generally making the life of a pub landlord easier and less expensive. That must be music to your ears.
It's given publicans like me and people within hospitality, cafe owners, restaurateurs, it's given us some hope. We've got no hope at the moment. It's the hardest trading conditions ever. We're being taxed into oblivion by this clueless government and this clueless Chancellor. It seems like Reform know that sometimes you've got to cut taxes to ignite industries and to give a resurgence to certain businesses. And I believe that a lot of these measures that Reform are saying they're going to do will actually create more money for the Treasury. The 10% VAT is better than I've even been campaigning for. I've been campaigning 12, 13% to take us in line with Europe because they support their hospitality and their tourism industries. We tax them. And look, what else did they do? Reversal of the national insurance contributions. That's one of the worst policies of a budget that I can remember in 20 or 30 years as being an adult. It's so damaging and it's put so many businesses out of business. And also, I think it's around 150,000 hospitality jobs have been lost, basically down to that policy itself. So Reform are listening. They're listening to people like me that are publicans. They're listening to the hospitality workers, not just the CEOs that, you know, will take them for a fancy dinner and try and protect their share price. Reform are listening to the people on the front line, like myself, like restaurateurs, like cafe owners, and they know they've got to protect this because if hospitality fails, our economy fails. And that is why it does not make sense what Rachel Reeves is doing. For me, again, it looks like it's on purpose. They're trying to do this on purpose. Why they would do that, I don't know. But it seems like they're trying to get everyone on benefits so they can control them.
I just don't think they're typical socialists. They're the fun police. They don't like people enjoying themselves. You know, going to the pub is a harmless activity for nearly everybody. The way Labour sees it, oh, if you go to the pub, you're an alcoholic, you're a danger to the public, and so on and so forth. They're killjoys, and they're killing pubs, and that has to be saved. Cheers to that, Adam. Thank you so much for your time. Good to talk. Adam Brooks there, broadcaster, writer and pub landlord. What do you think about what he was saying, particularly about Mandelson? Mandelson's going to jail, isn't he? 03444991000. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Matthew in Warrington. Hi, Matthew. What would you like to say?
Hi, Kevin. I just want to say that Adam was right on the mark there. He was absolutely bob on everything he said. Totally agreed with him. Yeah, I think Keir Starmer is a threat to national security. Never mind Mandelson and everything else. He's the decision maker. He's killing the country. He's bleeding us dry. He's giving everything away. He needs to go. I think it's a nail in the coffin. These PMQs today, he was a wet lettuce.
Well, you could tell he was terrified. You can always tell, Matthew. You can always tell when Keir Starmer is taking Prime Minister's Question Time seriously. He doesn't mention Liz Truss. He was nervous. He was terrified. You could see he's on the rack. Now, if you give him the benefit of the doubt that he didn't sort of deliberately compromise national security, that you still have to say appointing Peter Mandelson, that man Mandelson, to that very important job, the top diplomatic role for British politics, the ambassador to Washington. Appointing Mandelson showed from our Prime Minister a shocking lack of judgment, don't you think?
He was put in front of him and told to appoint him by people around him, by Blair. You're not seeing Blair.
Yeah, it was Blair. You're so right. It was the Blair whisperer whispering in.
Blair, New Labour are pulling all these strings here. They're all in the background behind the dark curtain, pulling everything.
Yeah.
And Keir Starmer is the puppet, and they're cutting them strings, and he's falling now.
Yeah.
And I dread how to think we've got to have a general election.
Well, certainly, I think we may be on the cusp of a different Prime Minister. But, Tony Blair's got questions to answer. So has Gordon Brown. This guy, Mandelson, took them all for fools. He took them for a ride and he took them for fools. And we need to find out exactly what's gone on over the years, but we certainly need to know exactly what went on leading up to the appointment of Peter Mandelson, the so-called Lord Mandelson, as our ambassador to Washington. It is a scandal and a disgrace. Good call, Matthew. Thanks. Matthew in Warrington. Let's quickly talk to Stephen in East Yorkshire. What would you like to say, Stephen?
Yeah, good evening, Kevin.
Hi, mate.
I think they'll do absolutely everything with the CPS to avoid this prosecution, because they've known all along that where these skeletons are buried, I'm sure Mr. Mandelson knows where plenty of skeletons are buried as well, and I have no confidence in Lord Hamer as head of the CPS.
Yeah, he could be a problem.
He's absolutely going to torpedo it everywhere.
Well, look, here's the thing, Stephen. I absolutely share your concerns and your fears that justice may not be done here, because that's the way the establishment works. But this time, I think the establishment, Hermer and the gang, Starmer, they realise that the Mandelson scandal is beyond the pale, and I think that even the establishment won't be able to and won't want to protect Mandelson. What they would need now is a sacrificial lamb, someone to chuck under the bus, and it will be Mandelson. Whether or not that will cure this country of all its ills, I don't know. But what's on trial now, Stephen, I keep saying this, is the British establishment and how it works. And if the British establishment gets destroyed in the process, let's meet and have a drink, eh?
Well, absolutely. The first round's on me. Absolutely.
You got it, Stephen. You got it. And let's hope they brought down the price of a pint by then. Good to talk to you, mate. Stephen in East Yorkshire. Let's go to a break now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Shamima Begum, the ISIS bride, who may well be heading back for this country after all. If she's heading back here, we're in some trouble. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
mistake.
Many in public
because
life,
it will
many
blow up.
journalists,
Look,
many
you are
commentators,
just-
including me,
you are
said at
just-
the time this was a mistake and he was the wrong
you
man
are
for the
just
job.
being self-righteous.
Nothing with hindsight.
This is
Nothing
not,
with hindsight.
This is not about
He's
Keir
a nasty
Starmer.
little piece
This
of
is not
work.
about Keir
He's a
Starmer.
wrong 'un.
It's
He's a
not about the
proven
bit-
liar. He was best mates with a paedophile. He thought that was okay. He didn't believe the girl who'd been solicited for prostitution. And you're happy to be mates with
No,
him. I don't think he's fit for public office.
Nor do I.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Breaking news, the BBC is reporting that from the Epstein files they have discovered apparent confirmation that notorious photograph of Prince Andrew at Ghislaine Maxwell's London home with his arm around Virginia Giuffre, which the Prince, lying little toad that he is, always said, oh, that's not a real photograph, that's been fabricated. Well, a lot of people, the experts have said, well, no, it isn't. But the BBC has found direct evidence, a statement by Ghislaine Maxwell confirming that picture is real and that happened, that he did have his arm around Virginia Giuffre at the home of Ghislaine Maxwell, who was, of course, Jeffrey Epstein's girl recruiting madam, currently doing 20 years in an American jail in Texas. By the way, it's such a scandal, by the way. The whole Epstein scandal is a scandal of men. That creep Bill Gates and they say, oh, I made a bit of a mistake being friends with Epstein. Yeah, you did, didn't you? Bill Clinton. All these vile old men going around with Epstein. It's a scandal of men. Who got in trouble? Who's gone to jail? Oh, one person, a woman. That's all wrong. I'm not saying that Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't deserve to do a bit of time in jail, but so do a lot of men. The only person to get jailed for the male scandal of the Epstein saga is a woman. That's a disgrace in itself. Let's move on. Let's talk about Shamima Begum. Now, there's a problem. She's been held in this detention centre in the fly-blown desert in Syria. Syria is falling apart at the seams. Its ability to retain the inmates in these detention centres is crumbling, is disintegrating. To wit, Britain has already repatriated several, they think at least a dozen jihadi ISIS brides, British brides, have come back quietly. Quite why we allowed that to happen, I don't know. The point is, Shamima Begum may soon be able to, if she hasn't already, just be able to walk out into the desert. Then what does she do? My guess, she starts to make her way back to Britain. So like it or not, we may soon have to address the crisis surrounding this ISIS bride terrorist friend. Let's talk to social policy analyst Dr. Rakib Ahsan. Welcome, Rakib.
Hi Kevin, how are you?
I'm good. Now, Shamima Begum, I've always taken the view that we were quite right to take away her British citizenship. She's a traitor. She signed up to that murderous caliphate, that death cult. ISIS took part in murderous activities, in bombings, and lived among those people, married a ISIS warrior, had 4 kids, they all died. My view is we were right to strip her of her British citizenship, and as far as I was concerned, and a lot of other Brits, I think, she could rot in the desert. The problem is, those desert detention centres are falling apart at the seams, and it may be possible that she can just walk out and she's going to make her way back here. We've got a problem here, haven't we?
No, we've certainly got a problem, Kevin. Now, I completely sympathise with those who believe that it was right to revoke her citizenship, her British citizenship, but I always said that that was a bit of a short-term fix. I think what we need to look at here is our own terror-related laws. I think that one of the main reasons why our public authorities are reluctant to allow the likes of Shamima Begum to return to the UK is that I don't think they're very confident that they would be able to prosecute her. Now, if you look at the prosecution rate for ISIS returnees who return to the UK, it's terribly low, Kevin, and that's because it's very difficult for our public authorities to collect the evidence from conflict-affected territories, that kind of evidence which is needed to facilitate prosecution. Now, as you say, these detention camps in Syria, which have been controlled by the Syrian Democratic Forces, they're now falling apart. They're crumbling. Syria itself is under tremendous internal strain. So I think that we really have to think about how do we personally as the UK manage this situation. But the reality is, Kevin, is that there's hundreds of ISIS returnees who have returned to the UK over the years. So this naturally does pose a security problem. But I think I would make this point with the citizenship stripping, that at the time we had the Home Secretary, I believe it was Sajid Javid, was trying to foist Shamima Begum onto Bangladesh. I don't think that was particularly wise either. Shamima Begum's never set foot in Bangladesh. Her connections there are tenuous at best. She just has Bangladeshi heritage. So I think we need to think about a way of how do we actually manage this kind of situation. I think for me, one suggestion is that we could introduce a very strong terror-related law, which says that if you are found guilty of membership of a proscribed terrorist organization, that in itself carries a hefty prison sentence, and that could be applied retrospectively, even to people who may have joined those organizations. I believe Shamima Begum was 15 years of age when she went out to Syria to join ISIS. I'd make the point that she was actually well above the age of criminal responsibility in England and Wales. Yes, 10 years of age. That's a good point. So I think that we need to look at our terror laws. How well are they working, and do we need to make adjustments and significant reforms?
Yeah, I mean, the Bleeding Heart Brigade, led by the excellent Lord Alf Dubs, are saying, oh, she was clearly trafficked, and therefore, we need to show her sympathy. As you say, she was 15 years old. She clearly wasn't trafficked. We got all the footage of her.
And there's a degree of individual agency involved, surely.
Yeah, exactly right. We got the footage of the three of them making, her and her two friends making their way out to the caliphate, so I don't buy that she was trafficked. However, and also I think it would be best for this country if she remained exactly where she is. She's a terrorist, and she is a threat to our national security, and if she ever does get back here, it's going to cost us at least £1 million a year for our security services to monitor her. So all in all, she should stay in Syria, but Syria is becoming very leaky, to say the least, and the chances are, as I said earlier, that she'll soon be able to walk out into the desert. And what's she going to do? She's going to make her way back here. So we're going to have to confront the reality. And what is weird, as you say, Rakib, is over the years, we have let in, arguably maybe hundreds of ISIS warriors, guys who went out there to fight with that death cult, British people. We've just let them kind of filter back into the country. We learned only last week that at least 12 ISIS brides have been allowed back in, no questions asked. When Shamima Begum knocks on our door, this is going to bring this issue to the forefront of the national narrative, isn't it?
Well, I think this is the point that you're saying that these detention camps in Syria, they seem to be bursting at the seams. That they're crumbling. So I think that the British authorities have to think, how do we keep control, or how do we get a grip of the situation? Now, some people might argue that maybe that they should organise the repatriation of Shamima Begum. Now, of course, the problem there is, once again, to what extent do they actually have evidence in terms of our existing terror laws, how they work? Would they be able to facilitate any kind of meaningful prosecution? I'm not entirely sure. But I think that we have to also think about, when it comes to the female members of ISIS, some of them played an integral part in the so-called morale morality police, which enforce the sort of moral codes on behalf of ISIS in the territories that they controlled. So I think that we have to bear that in mind in terms of the security risks involved in terms of female members of ISIS who joined, which is ultimately a barbaric, genocidal, terrorist organization. So I think that there's a lot for us to think about here in terms of how do the British public authorities actually manage this situation, and should they actually play an active role in repatriating Shamima Begum? But if they do so, will they be able to facilitate any kind of meaningful prosecution? Because they were not able to do so. I think there'd be many British citizens who would be very frustrated, if not very angry about it.
Yeah, it's a conundrum. I mean, she's a threat to this country. She's a terrorist. She's an enemy of this nation. And she's well known, as you said, the moral police that these ISIS brides tend to sort of operate under. She's well known to be a leading light, even in this detention camp over in Syria. She's one of the leaders of the moral police there, and you know, she walks around apparently usually in her burqa, but whenever the cameras are there, she puts on her Western gear and her baseball cap.
There's a Union flag pillow in the background.
That's right, that's right. She's an artful little thing, but she's worse than that. She's a danger to this nation. But I do feel fairly soon we are going to have to confront this, because she's going to come knocking on our doors. Rakib, good to talk to you as always.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Rakib Asylum there. What do you think? What are we going to do, folks, when Shamima Begum pitches up at Dover or Heathrow? Because she's going to, I think. They're just walking out of these detention camps now. Syria's falling apart, and so are the detention camps. People are just walking, the detainees are just walking into the desert. What is she going to do? She's not going to head for the Sahara, is she? She's going to head back here. We got a problem, folks. 03444991000. When we come back, I'm going to show you some video. You may have seen it, but I think it poses interesting questions. It is the moment of arrest for the angel of death, the nurse baby killer, Lucy Letby. We'll show you that video, and we'll talk about why on earth it is that these days the police release this for public consumption. Get your popcorn, folks. This is where we arrested Lucy Letby. What purpose does this serve? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Netflix has just got a documentary out about Lucy Letby, the angel of death, the nurse killer of babies. I don't buy into any of all this Lucy Letby was innocent. Sick of it, rather bored of it. I think she's as guilty as sin. That isn't what I want. That's just my view. You might disagree. But I wanted to discuss this. There's a Netflix documentary out, part of which is, or a large part of which is based on the arrest of Lucy Letby at her parents' home. We'll have a look at this and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Lucy, sorry that we've come round so early and woken you up. I'm from Chester MIT, the Major Investigation Team. I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder and attempted murder. You didn't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you didn't mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. I appreciate it's quite of a shock. What we need for you to do now, Lucy, is we need for you to get up and get yourself dressed.
Okay, just follow me down. Yeah. Please, can you see my cup? Stay here for a sec.
I know you don't.
It's all right. After my boy. Just go in, Mum. Don't look, Mum. Just go. Mum, just go in. Hey, jump in there.
Let's talk to Dr. David Holmes, a criminal psychologist. Hi, David.
Hi.
What intrigues me about this is, I suppose I don't care that much about the privacy of Lucy Letby. She killed babies. I don't really care about her welfare. I do feel you can hear her mother in the background screaming, oh, no, not again. Leave her alone. No, no, no. These are the anguished cries of a mother in the depths of despair. I think that's a dreadful invasion on her privacy. As a journalist, I hate talking about invasions of privacy. That's what my job's all about. But seriously, I think her privacy is invaded. It's arguable Lucy Letby shouldn't even be subjected to that. My question to you is, when did the police decide to keep releasing these moments of arrest videos? What is the purpose of it? What purpose does that serve?
The only thing I can really think of is it dates back to when police cam footage was available. So basically, you've got police with lots and lots of video, as it were, evidence recorded for the purposes of courts, for the purposes of police, purposes of being seen to do the job, I think is one of the major factors that drives it. But the reason behind it, probably more to do with the in-house, with the police, basically just saying, look, we're doing our job. We're doing our job correctly, by the letter. And
so they're showing off. It's just the cops showing off about how great they are.
In a way, yes.
Well, that's no good, is it, David? That's no good. I don't want to see the police boasting about themselves like this. As I say, I think there's probably a case for saying that, Lucy Letby doesn't deserve that, but she's a killer of babies, so who really cares that much about her? But I do feel concern for her mother, Susan, in this very harrowing footage.
Yes. But then again, you have to say that, Lucy Letby is, as it were, the perpetrator, not the victim. Therefore, the police action has to take place. Just because her mother happened to be there at the arrest is not really the police's fault. Her mother...
But it is their fault they released the video.
Yes.
Keep the damn video. Why don't they keep the damn video to themselves out of respect to Lucy's mother? She hasn't done anything wrong.
I don't think they'd see that as being respect because, needless to say, we're dealing with the perpetrator. Again, as you say, there is no kind of tears on Letby's face, as it were, when it comes to being shown in public. However, her mother, her parents, her other relatives, the cat, the neighbours, may object, but therefore their proximity to her means that they're going to be caught on camera basically, what was her arrest?
Yeah, but
so,
I mean, I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a journalist. I believe in disclosure. I believe in as much transparency as possible. And I hate to be standing around defending privacy and all that. I don't like privacy that much because I'm a hack and I like revelations. That isn't the point. Everything you say is quite right. Poor Susan Letby happens to be caught up in this moment of arrest. My question, though, is just this. Why are the police releasing these videos? Why? What purpose does it serve?
I think it's just purely police purposes. The cam footage was there to record what could be an attack in the street on police. It's there to record them carrying out their duty.
Yeah, but that isn't the point, David. I get all that. The question is, why publish it? Why release it to the public? Why?
I think if they kept
They're
it
showing
hidden,
off, aren't they? They're just being pathetic little show-offs.
I wouldn't put it past the police when it comes to showing off. However, it's particularly doing our job correctly. However, if they kept all this hidden, if they didn't show any cam footage, there would be a big area of suspicion around the police. Did they carry out this properly? Was it in due format, etc.? Were they dignified when it came to the relatives? And basically, the footage tends to show that they were.
I agree with that. No, they behave well.
Yeah.
Apart from turning this into a popcorn event. Here's the movie, folks. Enjoy it. I just watched it, and as I say, I don't really care about Lucy Letby, but I couldn't help feeling for her mother. Those were almost primeval screams of despair from a mother, in the depths of distress. I don't think that should be made public. Do you?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I agree. I
don't think it should be sold. I don't think the whole idea of digital exploitation of people, getting stuff out online and selling it to the public via Netflix, that's basically what it's about. It's the shock value. It's the kind of thing that they have exploited about crime, since.
I mean, you're right, David. That's essentially what I think they're trying to do. They're trying to sell the image of the police doing their job. That's why police forces are always agreeing to these tedious documentaries about, the Thames Police Traffic Patrol and all that crap. But they're always trying to, give themselves good publicity. I get that. I just think that they ought to be a bit careful with examples like this and maybe change the policy. It's all right, we know you arrested Lucy Letby, jolly well done. We don't need to see and hear her mother in the depths of despair. I just think that's kind of wrong. But
particularly not over and over again.
Yeah, you're right. Just keep. Yeah. Well,
we're part of that, of course.
I know we are. I mean, a part of me, I really liked seeing it. It's compelling. But then I'm listening to the mother. I'm thinking, this doesn't sit right with me. This isn't right.
Yes, it's that sense of exploiting the anguish of people who are not particularly guilty of anything, who are caught up in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And just targeting, putting the spotlight on them, and the more terror they show, the more anguish they show, the more likely, program makers are going to use it.
Yeah, I know, of course they are. It's compelling footage, there's no doubt about that. David, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Dr. David Holmes, their criminal psychologist. It's a difficult one, but what do you think about that? In respect to, Susan Letby hasn't done anything wrong. And yet she's the star of this harrowing film, screaming in the background, no, not again, and so on and so forth. Oh, it's all right, Mum. And then Letby cuddling her cat and all that. So don't get me wrong, it's very compelling. You want to watch it. You're drawn to it. But I'm just not comfortable with poor Mrs. Letby, Susan Letby, her role in that. And I think maybe the police ought to think twice about releasing this sort of thing, because I'm not sure what purpose it serves at all, except for them showing off. Let me know what you think, though. 03444 499 1000. It's an interesting one. Next up, Mike Anstead, sport head of content at The Sun, with all the sport that's fit to report. That next, stay tuned.
Jeremy Clarkson, a pub owner, he wrote a very scathing piece in The Sun this weekend saying that reform sounds great until you ask what they actually do beyond stopping the boats.
I think what he's done for farming is fantastic. I think he's woken the country up to how blooming difficult actually being a farmer is. So I can tell you, Jeremy, there's a constructive plan for pubs that also cuts the welfare bill. I'm sure he will approve thoroughly of that. And you can tell him we're working very, very hard on a proper agricultural policy as well.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Mike Anstead from Sunsport is in the studio. Welcome, Mike. Sad day. Snooker mourns the passing of John Virgo, the legend who was very much part of the kind of revolution, the television revolution that turned snooker into a major sport, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very sad news. Been loads of tributes pouring in for John Virgo. I mean, Ronnie O'Sullivan, the best player the game's ever had.
Credit to the family, by the way.
Yeah.
Kevin O'Sullivan, you know.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, Ronnie said he's absolutely gutted. Loads of tributes from around the sport, but wider than that as well. I mean, Virgo won the UK Championship in '79, so I mean, he was obviously a decent player himself, but he's almost more famous for certainly being the commentator with his his catchphrase was kind of "Where's the cue ball going?" which, you know, player sticks away the black ball and then sees the white rolling in the pocket at the far end of the table.
Where's the cue ball going?
Exactly, you do a better impression than me. So a lot of people know from that, but also Big Break. I mean, that was like a staple of Saturday night TV when I was growing up. I absolutely loved that show, and that kind of helped bring snooker to the masses with a fun show like that. So yeah, very, very much missed. Been nice to sort of see all the tributes for him. He was only on TV, you know, a couple of weeks ago, so very sad.
Yeah, but it's a shock. I mean, I'm not up on this. So how did he? Do we know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
79 years old.
Yeah,
but he seemed to be in the peak of health.
Yeah, 79. I mean, look, it's not. I've not seen details of reasons behind it, but yeah, he was on TV until very recently. So yeah, very, very, very sad.
And, you know, as you say, he became a TV star because he's such a good talker, very funny man. But you forget, he was world champion. He was a fantastic player.
Yeah. Well, UK Championship winner. He was some player. I mean, it was kind of before kind of really kicked off and got super popular, I guess. But you know, he's kind of.
Well, he's in the first wave.
Yeah,
all the the Ray Reardons. And
absolutely. Then you sort of have Higgins comes along and Jimmy White, Davis, and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, but he can certainly take a lot of credit, not just for being a great player, but for sort of being a super commentator and then, you know, bringing it to a wider audience. So.
Yeah, because when you get great sports stars, footballers and all sports, you know, fantastic players, they invariably, when they're interviewed, you go, oh God, you know, they can hardly speak. But Virgo, great sportsman and a great talker and a very funny man. He will be sadly missed. Let's talk about Liverpool. Slot is in trouble with the fans. What's he said now?
He definitely risking the wrath of a few Liverpool fans, I think. So we've had the past week or so, I've had a few comments that have wound up the fans over at Anfield, and you know, questioning his ambitions and etc. etc. He's come out today and said, well, I'll read the quote. He says, "Trophies is one thing, but being a team, club or a manager that stands for good football is in the long term worth more." So sort of sounds like short term sort of style means more than trophies. I'm not sure how well that will go down with fans. I think fans
want trophies.
Fans want trophies, don't they? I mean, look at Arsenal at the moment. They're playing pretty boring football, but all fans care about is getting hold of the Premier League and maybe the Carabao Cup and maybe the Champions League and maybe the FA Cup. But I'm not sure how well this is going down. I mean, look, he took over from Jurgen Klopp, who was adored by the masses up there, really whipped them up, represented them all, you know, kind of hit the right notes most of the time.
Yeah.
Slot, I'd say, sort of hit a few duff notes over the past couple of weeks. And I wouldn't say he's completely lost the supporters, but I would say there's definitely a few people raising eyebrows at what he's saying.
What's going wrong? I mean, Liverpool last season virtually invincible. This season, load of garbage. What's gone wrong?
I think they've been a bit unlucky with injuries. We'll give them that. You've had the whole Mo Salah issue that's gone on. But I think tactically they've got a bit worked out a little bit. I think people have got on top of them, whereas last season they kind of romped it a little bit. This season they've worked out, and he's not had too much of a plan B. Did he sign the right players? You know, they clearly needed a centre back. You know, the Salah issues going on. Yeah, so I think he's got problems. He got Man City on Sunday as well, so that's a
I didn't realise that.
I mean, look, if Liverpool don't get in the Champions League, that's a pretty disappointing season, considering they're coming off the back of winning the title.
What's the situation with Salah now?
He's back, so he was over in AFCON playing with Egypt, so he's kind of back in the team, played a couple of games. There's still a little bit of lingering discord between him and Slot. I think Salah certainly wasn't happy about feeling, well, in his own words, been thrown under the bus. He's in the team, smiling a bit more now, but it'd be interesting to see what happens at the end of the season. It could well be a parting of ways.
Yeah, I always find it strange when managers start dropping their star striker, and you know that is not to do with the striker and it's to do with their relationship. It's to do with just how well they get on.
Yeah,
and I think Slot and Salah have got a real personality problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Chelsea. They have regret at selling stars to Arsenal. Who are we talking about?
Well, I mean, look, this is this interesting piece written by Dan King, our Chelsea correspondent today. So we shouldn't say Chelsea have got regret because they're not telling us they've got regret. But if you look at this game last night, so Arsenal win late on to seal the place in the Carabao Cup final, knocking out Chelsea. Chelsea used to be serial winners of competitions, including Club World Cup last year. Arsenal obviously not had too much success, but you look at the team Arsenal have got, includes Kai Havertz, scores a goal last night, arguably, even though he's had injuries, arguably Arsenal's best striker. Noni Madueke, who was a controversial signing, but actually proven to be a pretty important player this season. And even Kepa, who's the number 2 goalkeeper, but did pretty well, and I'd argue is he a better keeper than Robert Sanchez, who's Chelsea's number 1. Yeah. All 3 of those have come from the Blues. There's got to be people at Chelsea going, hold on, this churn of players and allowing so many to go to Arsenal. Previously, I think it's worked quite well with David Luiz and people like that. But I think now there might be some people within the club and certainly some fans thinking, hold on, is this such a good idea? Even if we want to let these players go, should we be allowing them to join Arsenal?
Yeah, exactly right. The Chelsea song is regrets We've had a few, but then again, too many to mention. Let's talk about tonight's match, Mike. That is Manchester City versus Newcastle. That's live on talkSPORT, by the way, at 8 p.m. Man City are going to have to go some to lose this, aren't they? Because they've already got a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're Eddie Howe, you think...
Mind you, they're capable of it, aren't they?
Well, that's what I was just... But yeah, my point was being, if you're Eddie Howe, you've got nothing to lose. You go up there and lose 3-0, you're giving it a good go, why not? And the way Newcastle play, they've got, likes of Anthony Gordon, Elanga when he's on it, Harvey Barnes, you can hit them hard on the break. Why not go and give it a go? Play your best team for the first 60 minutes, see how you're getting on. I mean, Man City's defence at the moment isn't great.
Yeah, we know that.
They're missing a couple of players. I'm not convinced of Kusanov at the back. Obviously, Mark Gay's a very good footballer, just settling in. So yeah, we go up and give it a go. But I mean, you're Man City very much hot favourites to go through and then play Arsenal in next month's final.
It should be an interesting game because, as you say, Newcastle might as well go for it. They've got nothing to lose, have
Absolutely, yeah. What's to lose?
So that's on talkSPORT at 8 p.m. Folks, what's coming up at the weekend? Your lot, West Ham, are away to Burnley. They've got to win that, right?
The depressing Claret Derby up at Turf Moor, 18th versus 19th. Yeah, I think if
it's known as the depressing derby.
Yeah, absolutely. Nuno Espirito Santo. I think if he doesn't win that one, that could well be West Ham doomed, really. Says the cynical fan. Leeds Forest on Friday night is a massive game. Both those teams under a little bit of pressure. They're one of 3 or 4 teams who could be picked away. And then Liverpool City, big game on Sunday, so that'd be quite interesting. But
who have Arsenal got?
Arsenal got Sunderland on Saturday, so
should win that, shouldn't they?
Should. Well, Sunderland a good team this season, so if anyone's going to
give it a go, aren't they? They're off and on. I mean, that's at Arsenal, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's. I mean, Sunderland are very strong at home.
Yeah.
They came. I think I mentioned this to you the other day. They came and played Fulham, and we're standing there going, "What's all the fuss about?" They were crap against us. I mean, they're up and down is the point.
Yeah.
And when they're away, they're like more likely to not be so good as when they're away.
Yeah, exactly. But I'd sort of back them over a lot of teams to give it a go anyway. So.
Yeah. Any other matches were worth watching?
Man United, Spurs.
Oh, you missed the big one, Fulham-Everton.
Fulham-Everton, yeah. That's very mid-table. If ever there's been a mid-table clash, it's that one, isn't it?
It's a thrilling, nail-biting mid-table clash.
Yeah. Man United Spurs should be quite interesting. I mean, Carrick's got United on this run. They're playing some proper good football. There's this Man United fan with his long hair. I think this is the 4th game if they win this one.
The guy?
Yeah. So win that, and then lo and behold, who's the 5th game?
Extraordinary.
Do you know who the 5th game is?
Yeah, go on.
West Ham.
Of course. Well, they'll win that one.
Yep.
I haven't forgiven Man United for last weekend, for Sunday, when they beat us in the last minute. Typical Fulham. I was just saying, if football matches lasted 85 minutes, Fulham would be world champions. The amount of games we lose in the last 2 minutes. But enough of my fanzine rubbish. Thank you very much to Mike Anstead, Sport Head of Content at The Sun. Next up, we're going to go through some of the biggest stories of the day. So stay tuned.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, we need to talk about Mandelson again. We need to talk about what's going on in Westminster. Who better to do so with than the former political editor, a man of massive experience in the Westminster field, Trevor Kavanagh. Welcome, Trevor.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm okay. Peter Mandelson, not so much, I think, today. Now, Dan Hodges in the Mail today has written very powerfully, and now he's been around a few years as well, to say that this is the political scandal of his lifetime. He says he's never seen anything quite so serious as the Mandelson affair. Now, you've been around even longer than Hodges. In fact, much longer than Hodges. Where does this rate for you in the league table of political scandals?
Well, it's not just the crisis of the moment. It's the fact that this character, Peter Mandelson, has been around causing problems very similar to this, but not quite as scandalous, for the last 40 years, and everybody knew about it from the moment he appeared as a rather furtive young man alongside Neil Kinnock back in the 1992 election. And, of course, there were upsides, to be honest. I think that even his critics would admit that Mandelson was a clever guy who did a lot to rebuild and remould the Labour Party, the Red Rose Labour Party, and indeed to help bring Tony Blair to power. But on almost every step of the way,
you say that's a good thing?
couple of years. Beg your pardon?
You say that's a good thing?
Well, no, that's not the point. But I mean, as far as his political talent...
No, sure, of course, I know what you're saying, yeah.
No, well, we've lived to regret it, of course. But, I mean, look, the fact is that Keir Starmer has known exactly where Peter Mandelson was in New York during the period when Jeffrey Epstein was at the center of this furore over his paedophile antics. He knew that Peter Mandelson was not just a friend of Epstein's, but actually stayed in Epstein's flat in Manhattan. At the time, Epstein was in jail for those paedophile offenses. He knew this. He knew it because he was told before he made him our ambassador to Washington. This is unforgivably purblind stupidity on the part of Keir Starmer. He is not fit for the job of Prime Minister. That has become increasingly evident over the last 18 months. But this surely is the last nail in his coffin.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he's in serious trouble. I've never seen him look so terrified or nervous as he did today at PMQs. You know, you could tell he was taking it seriously. It's the first PMQs I haven't heard him shouting about Liz Truss. So at long last, he has recognised the gravity of this situation. Now, as we speak, Trevor, the Intelligence Scrutiny Committee are sitting in judgment on how much to release about the vetting process that led to the Prime Minister appointing Peter Mandelson as our man in Washington. The Prime Minister and his acolytes earlier today trying to redact some of this, saying, yes, we'll release all the details, unless, of course, those details compromise national security. Now, of course, all the opposition parties are saying, screw that. You better tell us everything. What is significant for Starmer is a lot of his MPs are saying exactly the same thing, including, ominously for him, Angela Rayner. Now, he was asked by Kemi Badenoch today, did he know all about Mandelson's friendship with Epstein before he appointed him? At first, he tried to avoid the question. Kemi asked it again, and then he said, yes, I did. I think that is an incendiary moment. I think that the Prime Minister's judgment here looks to be appalling, and it looks as if he may well have overruled recommendations on the part of our intelligence services not to appoint this guy because of his dodgy relationship with Epstein. It looks as if it's possible that Starmer overruled that, and if that is true, he's got to go.
Well, I think this is absolutely true, Kevin. He also overruled the intelligence service's views on the Chagos Islands, by the way. They had very firm reservations about handing a very pivotal strategic location to the Mauritian government, which is pro-China. And we may, well, I mean, that is yet to come home to roost. But I think that you're right, that this has been quite a triumph for Kemi Badenoch, who's got a tail up and is doing rather well. She's the one who put Starmer on the spot. And as you say, he was floundering throughout Question Times, desperately trying to find a way to wriggle off this hook. He failed, and one of the reasons is that Badenoch actually challenged Labour MPs to vote with her on the basis of some sort of truth and honesty and the revelation of what truly went on when Starmer decided, against the recommendations, presumably, of the security services, to make Mandelson our ambassador. And now that challenge to the Labour MPs has worked. They've lined up behind her challenge and have actually overruled, with the assistance of Angela Rayner, the Prime Minister, and those documents will now be made available.
I've got a breaking news, Trevor. This may reek to many of the establishment coming into play again. This is just broken. I'd like to get your thoughts. The Metropolitan Police has asked the government not to release, quotes, certain documents relating to Jeffrey Epstein because it could, and I quote again, undermine our current investigation. Commander Ella Marriott from the force has released that statement. I don't think the public are going to be pleased about that. I don't think many politicians are going to be very pleased about that. I'm not very pleased about that. What do you think?
Well, I think this is actually more ominous for Starmer than we are aware of, because what this means is that there will almost certainly now be a police prosecution against Peter Mandelson on whatever basis the police decide to charge. Misconduct in public office is a catch-all offence, but it does carry the possibility of life imprisonment. So the implications of this are quite vast. If indeed Mandelson was knowingly effectively selling insider trading information from the heart of Downing Street to a financier in New York with contacts with the biggest banks in the world, I mean, this could be very serious. And the police are actually right, I think, in making sure that that prosecution, if it comes about, is not compromised by our examination of these documents. It's very annoying, very frustrating for us, but I think that it means it is very serious for Peter Mandelson.
Indeed. Well, I asked you earlier, in terms of scandals that you have seen, is this as bad as it gets?
Well, on its own, I think it's very difficult to think of anything worse, actually, because, as I just said, what we seem to be seeing here is evidence that as business secretary and effectively deputy prime minister, with access to the very heart of Downing Street and cabinet documents and insider information, which has financial implications, Peter Mandelson was instantly sending them on by email to Jeffrey Epstein, who could have made a lot of money out of them. More worryingly still is the growing suspicion that Jeffrey Epstein was, in fact, a Russian spy. And that begins to cause other reverberations, because Peter Mandelson had his own shady relationships with a Russian mogul, one of the oligarchs who, his name was Oleg Deripaska, who ran the aluminium industry in Russia. It was as European Union Commissioner for Trade that Mandelson met at a very secretive meeting in Siberia with Oleg Deripaska, and a few weeks later that he ordered the blockage of aluminium imports from Russia, and the dumping of those imports on European Union.
Now, Jeffrey Epstein, I think it's probably almost certainly true, has been accused of being a sociopath, possibly even a psychopath. Peter Mandelson, you know, we all know he was clever. He was, you know, his intellect was very sharp, good political operator. A bit of a clown when it comes to not getting caught. If he's so clever people don't get caught. He always gets caught. Richard Littlejohn said, in any given scandal, while everybody else has successfully headed for cover, you can rest assured Mandelson will be standing in the room with his trousers round his ankles holding a smoking gun. He was a fall guy like that, bit of a clown like that. Do you think, though, that he's a psychopath or a sociopath? People say he lusted after power. The picture that seems to be emerging to me is what he really lusted after was money. It was, I'm Mandy, buy me. He'd sell anything for a few bucks.
Yes, well, I've written a piece for tomorrow's paper in which I describe Mandelson as being like a crack cocaine addict, absolutely addicted to the whiff of money. If you're a billionaire, yes, as you say, buy me. Everything that he's done, including all of his sackings from the period when he was first sacked as a minister, then as a cabinet minister, and now as ambassador, have been linked to very rich men, all of them, including now the Derek Pasca. His whole life has revolved around this. And I think that the reason he has made these catastrophic errors, if you'd like to call them that kindly, is because he flirts with danger. He has that sort of personality that every now and again, no matter how important these things are, he will take a risk. And the risk is usually associated with money. And as a result of this, Mandelson has become far wealthier than any income that would be publicly justified in terms of salaries or other earnings, and we wonder why. And I suspect we'll find out more about this as time goes on.
I think you're right. Another bit of breaking news. It's all happening while you're on, Trevor. This is Nigel Farage, the Reform UK leader, has written to the European Anti-Fraud Office asking them to investigate whether Peter Mandelson used his tenure as EU Trade Commissioner for personal financial gain. On that kind of topic, let me ask you about this. Now, I'm not sure how long he was EU Trade Commissioner for, but it wasn't that long. But apparently, after that short tenure, he's on a £31,000 a year pension for life. I think that needs to be looked into. More to the point, this must be looked into, is this. Extraordinarily, in my view, that after his 6 months as ambassador to America, our man in Washington, let's not forget he was sacked in disgrace over revelations over his friendship with Epstein. He was sacked in disgrace because he refused to quit. Despite being sacked in disgrace, he was handed a 6-figure payoff. That in itself, in my view, is a disgrace. That's taxpayers' money. Starmer and his government need to get it back, don't they?
Well, they should, but I doubt if they will, because they are the Starmer government and he's a Labour casualty, but he's still Labour. I mean, the problem that we've got with someone like Mandelson, Kevin, is that the jobs that he's held, first as business secretary with the Blair government and the Brown government, and then as a trade commissioner, and then as deputy prime minister and business secretary with before he got ousted in the election. Those give an unscrupulous politician enormous leverage and access to ill-gotten gains. I mean, you can give approval to certain things that billionaires want and are prepared to pay for. Now, I've got no evidence that this is the case, but on the current assessment of the way that Peter Mandelson has behaved over recent years in relation to Jeffrey Epstein, I think that the police will find this rich territory for further investigation.
As the political editor of, the best-selling newspaper in the country with a reputation for an impressive reputation for the kind of mischief newspapers should unleash, how did you get on with Mandelson personally?
Well, I was always very suspicious of him, and I'm proud to be able to claim that I was instrumental in his downfall as Northern Ireland Secretary over the Hinduja passports affair. And I was in the lobby with Alistair Campbell and all the other journalists. And this story about the Hinduja passport application came up, and I was asking questions. It stank at the time, and I asked a question, and I got a fairly short answer. None of the other journalists seemed to be interested, so I thought, well, I'll just keep pressing. And I asked a few more questions, and finally it occurred to them that this might actually be a story, so they piled in. He was gone by 4 o'clock that afternoon.
Wow.
And I'm also proud to be able to say that as a result of such stories and pressure, Mandelson tried to persuade senior figures in news to sack me because I played too much golf, he claimed, and I'm equally proud to say they didn't.
Here's another question for you. You know, not much happens on the political scene without some kind of comment from Tony Blair's former right-hand man, Alistair Campbell. How do you explain the fact there's been some kind of strange silence from Alistair over the Mandelson affair?
Who can possibly explain that? I mean, could it possibly be, Kevin, that the two men are fatally entwined, that there is very little that Mandelson would do or Alistair would do without either one of the others knowing or even being complicit in what they're doing? I think they're as close as, they're as thick as thieves, which is perhaps an appropriate description.
And finally, Starmer, how much longer can he last? He's clinging on by his fingernails now, isn't he? When do you think he will be gone by, if at all?
I think it's a matter of when they pull the trapdoor open and he hangs. This is a matter really for the party. It might not be a timing of their choosing for him to go now. I think that the local elections, or indeed the by-election in Gorton in Manchester, which is only a couple of weeks away, that could be the moment. I mean, it may well be that the bottom will totally drop out of the Labour polling market, and they might be consigned to a handful of votes. It may also be that Kemi Badenoch's Tory party might just notch up a few points from the mere 8% they got last time. This combination of events will bring home to Labour MPs just how seriously the risk is of them losing their livelihoods.
Yeah, that's true. I think his days are numbered. I think he's in huge trouble, but not as much trouble as Mandelson. Trevor, great to get your take on it. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. That's Trevor Kavanagh, the legendary former political editor of The Sun, who's got a powerful piece in tomorrow's paper. That will be well worth reading. Now, let's go to break. We've got a voice note from Gaz on Peter Mandelson. Let's have a quick listen to that first.
Regarding films Mandelson should be in, he should star in he should be in the remake of Fistful of Dollars and the sequel for a few dollars more. And who should play him? Basically anybody who's played the back half of a pantomime horse, I guess. Have a good one, mate. See you later. Bye-bye.
Back half of a pantomime horse to pay Peter Mandelson. Somebody here has suggested Rowan Atkinson, presumably in his guise as Mr. Bean. We've got some titles here: The Good, the Bad, and the Tighty White Jockey Pants. That's from Ian. I'll read a few more of those when we come back, so stick around.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Sinks, and that's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beard, and I feel
raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of its desperation.
Is public transport good value for money?
No, it isn't.
You really don't like speaking to people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
We're going to go to the phones in just a little while, and later I'll be talking to Kinsey Schofield, our royal guru over on the west coast of the United States of America, about the latest goings-on. Well, I guess Andrew. And also, of course, our friends Harry and Meghan still there after all these years. Now, before the break, while I was discussing the Mandelson affair with Trevor Kavanagh, he alluded to the upcoming by-election in Gorton and Denton. To it, we have to remind you of all of the candidates in the interest of fairness. They are Nick Buckley, Advance UK, Charlotte Cadden, Conservative Party, Dan Clark, Libertarian Party, Matt Goodwin, Reform UK, Sir Oink-a-Lot, Monster Raving Loony Party, Joseph Omichia, Rejoin UK, Rejoin EU. Sorry, Joseph Omichia, Rejoin EU. Sebastian Moore, Social Democratic Party. Jackie Piercy, Liberal Democrats. Hannah Spencer, Green Party. Angelica Stogier, Labour Party. And Hugo Wills, the Communist League. Those are all the candidates at the upcoming Gorton and Denton by-election. Now, shall we go to the phones? Let's talk to Khalid in Leicester. Hi, Kalim. You want to talk about Shamima Begum?
Yeah, I mean, I think you were saying that, you know, she shouldn't be allowed back in the UK. She's supporting terrorism, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, correct.
15-year-olds in the UK, generally, as far as I'm aware, they're not allowed to vote.
That's not the point. That's not the point. By the way, 15-year-olds are of the age of criminal responsibility, so that one doesn't fly. That's not the point, Kelly. The point is she can't come back here because she's not a British citizen.
Yeah, my point is her citizenship was revoked. I don't think she...
No, she's not a British citizen, therefore we don't have to let her back in, do we?
Yeah, well, that's been revoked. I mean, she was initially, yes, a British citizen. My point is, look...
It's not revoked. It's not revoked. She is no longer a British citizen.
So you are saying...
So why should we have her back?
What you are saying that anybody who goes abroad, and even if they're linked to any criminal activity, their citizenship should be.
No, where did you get that? When did I say that? I didn't say that. I just said she's not a British citizen, therefore we have no responsibility to have her in this country.
No, but who took
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She is not a British citizen, therefore she can't come here.
No, but the point is that's a ridiculous.
You're going to go on about the injustice of taking her citizenship away. Who cares? That's irrelevant. She's not a British citizen. She's not our responsibility. Do you get it?
So therefore, they're the same principle, Kevin. That anybody who goes abroad and commits...
No, never mind that. I don't care about anybody. I care about her. I don't care about anybody. I care about her.
No, you know what I'm getting to. You're trying to get out of this one, but you're not going to get out of it. The thing
get out of what?
British UK citizens have gone to Gaza, posted their war crimes online, and they've come back.
What's that got to do with it? What's that got to do with it?
Yeah, well, their citizenship.
But they haven't had their citizenship taken away. She has. She's not a British citizen. Therefore, she's not our responsibility. Therefore, we don't have to let her back in, do we? Don't care about all the others. She is not a British citizen. What is it about that statement, Khalid, that you don't seem to be able to understand?
And what don't you understand? That any IDF soldier who's in the UK, they should be
No, I don't care about IDF soldiers. I'm talking about one person. I'm talking about one person, Shamima Begum. She is not a British citizen. Therefore, we have no responsibility towards her. Don't quote other cases. She is not a British citizen. Do you get that?
Do you get any print?
Do you understand that?
Do you understand?
Do you understand she's not a British citizen?
Do you understand?
Do you understand that, Khalid, or not?
Are you really that shallow, Kevin? Come on.
Yes, I am. Bye. There's Khalid, our old friend from Leicester. He's a hilarious idiot. He really is. Have we got time for another call? Yes, we have. Let's talk to Paula in London. Hi, Paula. Can you be a bit more sensible than my last caller? Would that be okay?
Yeah, that's fine. And can I... Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Can I make... So I've got one request and I've got 3 points. First point I'd like to make is in reference to what you and I think Samara were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
How I look at our immigration system right now.
Multiculturalism you want to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a... So you talk about a melting pot versus a mosaic. So we always talk about the American melting pot. However, Canada has a mosaic, which sounds lovely in reference to, diverse cultures. But if you look at a mosaic, it's divided by stitches, it's divided by borders.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at, Paula, and that's my concern about... I like the idea of multiculturalism. I like the idea of a multicultural country, but not if there's no integration. And more, our various cultural, ethnic minorities seem to be isolationist, particularly some Islamic people, and that's not, as I say, it's isolationism, not integration. It's the lack of integration that I think we have to worry about.
Exactly. Now, the other point I want to make is why are we spending so much time in our media focusing on this Epstein case when we've got our own situation live happening with the grooming gangs? That's my second point. And third point I would like to make is when we talk about Shamima Begum and she committed a crime, she was
ISIS bride, a fan of terrorism, etc.
Have we not forgotten during the 70s in particular and the 80s, the IRA were put up, the IRA members were put in prison. They were Irish citizens, but they were imprisoned over here. And we acknowledged, not me, but the government, not only silenced them when they were being interviewed on TV, but when they committed the acts.
So you're talking about imprisoning Irish citizens? Is that what you're talking about? Or?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but we're entitled to if we feel foreigners have committed crimes, we're entitled to imprison them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what's the difference between terrorists now and terrorists back then? We seem to have changed our direction, how we treat them. Do you see what I'm saying? When they commit a crime, we seem to have changed our direction, and it's a slap on the wrist, or it's their mental health, or we just seem to have changed.
I mean, those were extraordinary times during the Troubles in Ireland. Those of us of a certain age remember them very well, and those were very, very difficult times. I agree with you, though. We have a multiculturalism problem because our multicultural society is, as you say, it's a mosaic divided by barriers, whereas it should be a melting pot as everybody integrates. But we ain't integrating it seems to me, and therein lies our problem. Paula, good call. Thank you very much. Paula in London there. Let's quickly talk to Stella in Swindon. Hello, Stella. What would you like to say?
Hello, Kevin. Hi, I've been glued to the television all afternoon watching the live debate in Parliament.
Oh, you haven't been watching this show? Outrageous.
No, I always have you on
I'm only kidding.
I have you on the radio because I don't...
Well, you can tell me, how has the debate been? Because, of course, I've been on air. I haven't really been able to follow it. What's been happening?
Quite fascinating, but hard to follow sometimes. The point I sort of picked up on, there was one of the Labour female politicians, and she was almost crying about the poor girls who were victims of Epstein and how they were trafficked and everything. And I just thought, I haven't seen that sort of anger over our poor rape victims.
Yeah, well, I think Labour have got a problem with the rape gang inquiry that never seems to happen. When exactly is their inquiry going to start? Rupert Lowe has started his independent rape gang inquiry in sheer frustration and anger that this government doesn't seem to want to get to grips with this. This is an issue of justice for as many as 250,000 victims of these rape gangs, and yet our government drags its heels on that, and I think that's a scandal, Stella.
The other thing about it is that the Epstein's girls often benefited in ways by being provided with flats and bursaries for education, and was it Victoria Giuffre?
Yeah, Virginia Giuffre.
Virginia Giuffre. Yeah, apparently, if the report I read was right, she had a boyfriend who must have known what was going on, but he still encouraged her to...
Well, we don't know that. We don't know that. She's a victim. I mean, you know, I think all victims of sex crimes should be figures of sympathy, and I don't think there's a league table of, you know, oh, this was a worse victim of a sex crime than this person. You know, I don't sort of agree with that. I mean, I take the point you're trying to make, but all victims of sex abuse should be treated equally, really.
Yeah, but I just think the British girls have had a much harder time, shall we say.
Well, I know where you're coming from, but I don't think we should get involved in discussion about saying, oh, well, this victim of sexual abuse didn't go through such a hard time as this one. But I do understand what you're saying. We need, as a matter of urgency, as a nation, to get to grips with justice for the 250,000 victims of those appalling rape gangs. I agree with that. Stella, good call. Thank you very much for ringing. Stella in Swindon. When we come back, let's talk royal matters with the great Kinsey Schofield. She's lined up, she's waiting, she's in the West Coast, and on the West Coast, I should say, and we will be talking to her next, so stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk royals. Let's go over to the West Coast. I haven't talked to her nearly enough this week because I'm in this new time slot, but I'm going to fix this very soon. Welcome to the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
Kevin, I was going to say I forgot what you looked like.
Yeah, come on. Well, that's lucky for you. Listen, I do want to talk to you about Prince Andrew, but let's get round to that in a little while, because I need to talk to you about the gruesome twosome, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Amazing story about Meghan Markle, right? So you remember, you and I talked about this not so long ago. The story going round near Christmas, around about Christmas, that there were 572,000 unsold items from the As Ever stock, you know, her weird online shop that sells jam for astronomical prices. Unsold. You know, clogging up the warehouse. Nobody wants them. She or her acolytes quickly hit back, saying, no, you don't understand. She's stocking up because she's going global, and she's actually sold 1 million jars of jam, as I said at the time, at $14 a jar. I find that hard to believe. Story now.
And she's gone up on her prices, by the way.
They've gone up even more. Well, the story now is that, of course, Netflix, her former sort of partners, if you like, you know, we're all wrapped up in this. And apparently Netflix staff are kind of drowning in As Ever products. They're all over the place. And so
yeah, I would also like to formally thank Page 6 for watching Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, who had this exclusive last week.
There you go. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So you didn't tell me. So let's just... Well, so I should have known you broke the story. That Netflix staff have been told, would you take some of this jam and would you get this honey out of the office and just get rid of these dried flowers? They are drowning in all these products. Obviously, Meghan's saying, no, my business is booming. I'm going global. I've sold $1 million worth of jam. I don't think I believe her, do you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the story originated, I had a guest called Donna Bowman on Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, and Donna was gifted some of this As Ever product from Netflix HQ. An employee was leaving, and Netflix was like, take it, get it out of here. And she was like, I just want to show you the candle that I got. Yeah. And it was wickless, Kevin.
Wickless,
it didn't have, she opens it up, it doesn't have a wick. I mean, I can't imagine Netflix must just be pulling their hair out. But yes, this then becomes this story about how Netflix employees are taking home free swag because they have closets full of this stuff, whether it's jam, candles, wine, flour, sprinkles. There are boxes full of it around Netflix HQ. Now, Page 6 found one person willing to say that they moved it into a separate warehouse and they're not overflowing with it, although, you know, I digress, who cares? But, you know, there is product just sitting around. One employee allegedly grabbed like over 10 products, and when candles are $65 a pop, that's pretty expensive swag. But yeah, they don't know what to do with this stuff.
Look, As Ever, you know,
you can't gift this stuff to influencers or media people when when the candle doesn't have a wick, because that becomes the story. When the product is not good, when you do not do your due diligence, then I mean that totally negates the whole purpose of having this stuff.
Absolutely, and you know what I've always said, I think this is a very, very weird business model that As Ever essentially specialises in selling mundane domestic products at astronomical prices. $14 for a jar of jam. As you said, I think $62 for a candle. The honey is $28 a
It's
pot.
now $32.
So she's put the prices up, and the wine is off the scale. But it's, you know, unsurprisingly, people aren't buying these very expensive products. As I've always said to you, Kinsey, she's basically saying to you, here's a jar of jam, or scam jam, pretend jam, for $14. What you got to do, though, is you got to fill out a form and online, and you got to put your credit card in, and then it'll take about if you're lucky, it'll take 3-4 weeks before it arrives. Or, alternatively, you can go to the grocery store next door and buy a jar of jam for about $2. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm buying the $2 jam. But it's interesting the way that I've watched on some retail websites that don't have an opinion on Meghan Markle whatsoever. They're just observing the industry, how they talked about how Meghan will promote a restock for an item that never sold out. So she's trying to go, oh my gosh, it's back in stock. Well, it's been sitting on your site for 6 months, They were also talking about the way she tries to repackage these things. She just throws a ribbon on 2 cans and says, oh, this is the Valentine's Day package. So even people in the retail industry that don't have a dog in this fight, critical of the way that this business is currently being run.
Exactly right. And, 572,000 items were revealed to be in the warehouse over Christmas, unsold. She said, no, I'm going global. That's why I'm stocking up. Any evidence of this expansion around the world? I haven't come across it. As far as I can work out, I know this from experience. The only way us poor, long-suffering Brits can buy, for example, can buy as ever products is by getting our friends in America to order it. I haven't seen any evidence of this global expansion that her friends were boasting about back in December.
Right. And I also think that if a logical person would look at the common sense that there are different rules for every country about food that enters that country, different rules and different standards. And I don't think that she was aware of that or was even considering that when she over-purchased, when she over-ordered the all of the inventory she has today. There are certain things that aren't allowed to enter your country unless it's made a certain way. Was she considering that throughout this entire process? I highly doubt it when this is a woman that, was calling this brand American Riviera Orchard for the first
I've forgotten about that.
So it feels like she's never thinking about the bigger picture. She's never thinking about the consequences. She's very reactionary. So yeah, I feel like somebody said, oh, well, she's going global. But was she considering the fact that different countries have different rules for food entering that country? I don't think so when she was initially creating this overstock of product.
Yeah, 572,000 unsold items. That emerged over Christmas. Now we're hearing that Netflix staff are drowning in this stuff and being urged, for God's sake, take it home with you, will you?
Take this huge chunk of wax home that you can't light because there's no wick in the candle.
It's the novelty candle that you can't light. Not exactly a selling point, is it? Now,
I do think it's fair that we have there are parallels between Prince Andrew and Harry and Meghan. So when you were like, let's shift, I wanted to mention to you today that I think the ultimate story here, we'll have to see if there are any charges ever against Prince Andrew. But in the court of public opinion, it's guilt by association. It's associating with Jeffrey Epstein. And I do think it's a lesson for Harry and Meghan. And hopefully they're watching this very closely. As of 2026, 2 people filed formal sexual assault lawsuits against Tyler Perry, Lily's godfather. And, others have made related allegations involving his studio, and there have been whispers about him for years.
Yeah.
Could we see similar email exchanges one day from Harry and Meghan to Tyler Perry through litigation, through discovery, like the Blake Lively, Taylor Swift text messages and emails? I think they need to be very cautious.
Yeah, indeed. Now, which brings me to my next question. It's always my question. We often talk a lot about Meghan. I mean, everything she does seems to turn to a disaster, but she never gives up trying. I mean, she is a sort of whirl of disastrous activity. But I always ask you, amid all of this dervish-like whirl of frantic activity by Meghan, what's old Ginger Nuts up to, old Harry? Is he doing anything?
Well, he is getting ready for he's doing a conference in Washington, D.C. It's between March 30th and April 2nd, where he talks about, and this is ironic, privacy, considering the fact that he's unleashed on his family over the last few years. But this is supposed to be like a AI policy and governance, where you talk to lawyers and tech experts and people that are working in government to try to set the standard for what the protocol is going forward with us engaging online. And to that, I'd say, what qualifies Harry to take someone's position there that is truly qualified, has made this their entire purpose in life, went to school for this. Why should Harry be there over them? And that's actually how I found out about it. Someone wrote me and said, I wanted a part here. I wanted to speak at this conference. It's the IAPP Global Privacy Summit in Washington. And they said, I wasn't given the opportunity, but there's Prince Harry. What qualifications does he have that I don't? And I said, his DNA, but the reality is it's just a low-hanging fruit when it comes to PR, because you and I are talking about a conference we would typically never talk about. But what can Prince Harry bring to the table?
Yeah, well, nothing. And I think that if they're going to have a privacy conference, then they should be given the privacy they fully deserve. Nobody reports it. Let's before you go, Kinsey, got to ask you, of course, about the artist formerly known as Prince Andrew. Now, of course, he's Andrew Mountbatten, skulked out of the Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park overnight. The King apparently drew the line, sick to death of seeing him riding his horse around Windsor Great Park, sick to death of seeing him going off on those mysterious drives in his Range Rover. Where does he go? I don't know.
I don't want to know after this.
Yeah, well, he just said, get the hell out of Dodge. So he's gone up to Sandringham to his new reduced circumstance home. The King apparently is going to fund his life from now on. But overnight, you know, we learned these more sordid revelations, allegations that he took part in a threesome with a stripper and Jeffrey Epstein. The stripper's now allegedly, or went on allegedly, to sue Jeffrey Epstein for $250,000 because Epstein never paid up for the fun and frivolity they enjoyed with Prince Andrew. This guy, Andrew, and his awful wife, Fergie, they're the pits, aren't they?
They're horrifying. I mean, it's so destructive to the royal family, to the work they're trying to do today. I mean, the King released a video today about cancer. Catherine also discussing cancer. These are important topics. They've done a lot of work over the last few weeks that we've completely ignored because we've been so overwhelmed by these Epstein files and the dirty details inside of them. I know way too much about Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew now. And even Fergie, I mean, Fergie's desperation to stay connected to this guy, hopping on a plane, taking her princess daughters to see him, and then the
day after he was released from jail after serving his sentence for paedophile child sex offences, she takes Bea and Eugenie for lunch with Epstein. They had vegetable lasagna because he had a Paris chef in town, and they go,
and then she has the audacity to email him and be like, and you're paying for our trip, right? I mean, it's just so embarrassing. This entire family is so embarrassing, and I love Queen Elizabeth. But, you know, there are messages.
She made mistakes with Andrew. And, you know, I think we've got to ask questions about old Bea and Eugenie as well. They go, the poor kids. She took her daughters to see this paedophile. They were 19 years old and 20 years old at the time. Were they innocents who didn't know anything? I'm not so sure.
And let's look at their bank accounts and see how much they've benefited from some of these unsavory relationships.
Obviously, we don't know those details, but I think questions need to be answered about that family generally. Kinsey, will he come back on Monday?
Yeah, I'll see you then.
Look forward to it. Have a great weekend. Kinsey Schofield there, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Let's go to break. When we come back, a few calls, messages, and then we'll while our way down to 7 p.m. when Alex Phillips will be in to tell you what she's got lined up for the political asylum from 7 until 10 p.m. All of that still to come. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at them.
Jeremy Clarkson, a pub owner, he wrote a very scathing piece in The Sun this weekend saying that reform sounds great until you ask what they actually do beyond stopping the boats.
I think what he's done for farming is fantastic. I think he's woken the country up to how blooming difficult actually being a farmer is. So I can tell you, Jeremy, there's a constructive plan for pubs that also cuts the welfare bill. I'm sure he will approve thoroughly of that. And you can tell him we're working very, very hard on a proper agricultural policy as well.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm going to go to the phones in just a second. A few messages. We've got lots of messages today. Thanks for sending them in. Sorry I didn't get to read all of them, but you know the way it goes. It's only a 3-hour show. But this is Mark in Stratford. He said there's only one, I asked who should play Mandelson in Mandy the movie. Mark says there's only one actor that could play Mandelson in a biopic, and that's Kevin Spacey. He can do slimy and duplicitous to a T and would nail Mandelson's pompous English accent. Also, unlike Mandy, it would be a deserved comeback for someone who has been unfairly cancelled for far too long, in my opinion. Couldn't agree with you more, Mark. Kevin Spacey should not be cancelled. He should be allowed back into Hollywood to become Hollywood royalty again, in my view. Didn't do anything wrong, never been convicted of anything. Outrageous that he was cancelled. This is from David in Leicestershire. Hi, Kev. Love the show. Thank you, Dave. Raina is, and I'm going to put an alleged in here. Raina is an alleged liar and an alleged tax dodger. Much as I despise Starmer, Raina will be worse. I kind of agree with that. It's incredible, isn't it? But there you are. Chris says, Starmer saying he feels for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Pity he doesn't seem so concerned about the rape gang victims in this country, as we were discussing. We're going to be talking about that a lot tomorrow night. Tomorrow afternoon on Drive Time tomorrow. The rape gang inquiry that never seems to happen. Rupert Lowe's having his independent one. Where's the government one? When is it going to happen? Jacqueline in Liverpool says there's only one way I would like Peter Mandelson to be known, and that is by his prison number. Yeah, me too. Right, let's go to the phones before Alex Phillips comes in to tell us what she's got lined up for you. It's 7 to 10 p.m. Let's talk to Joan in Sunderland. Hi, Joan.
Hello. All this scandal with Mandelson, I believe Starmer will be gone by March.
Why do you think March, Joan? Because a lot of people think it'll be the May local elections that will do for him. Why do you think March?
I don't know. I just have this feeling, and the dominoes will start to fall. This man has alone endangered this land.
I agree.
Not only with this, but with his Chinese deals, the embassy, and what have you. And I would love to see how much we are in debt with net zero and China. And also you talked about Shamina Begum. Now, I believe they're trying to put a case together in Strasbourg, and they will be trying to say, build a case around child trafficking.
Yeah, that's exactly what the Bleeding Heart Brigade are trying to do. They're saying that Shamima Begum's a victim of child trafficking. Well, she was 15 years old when she flitted over to that death cult ISIS, to the caliphate. And I'm afraid that 15 years old is well within the age of criminal responsibility. So treating her as a child in that respect is not true. She's a terrorist. She's a threat to this country. She revelled in being a part of ISIS. So as far as I'm concerned, she can rot in the desert. The trouble is, they're letting them all out now because the detention camps are losing their security. Where's she going to head? She's going to head back here, Joan.
Well, I think she'll try, but we're going to hear of a name that we haven't heard of for a while. Another ISIS bride. Can you remember the White Widow?
Oh, yeah. What was her name? Yeah, I know the one. Well, I wonder if she'll be heading back as well. We've got a problem here, Joan.
Obliterated.
But,
she used to travel in a convoy, and they had a couple of goes at her. But they eventually...
Yeah, well, if she comes back, I mean, you know, that'll be worse than Shamima Begum. But listen, Joan, really good call, as always, from you. I've got to move on because the show's nearly over. Joan in Sunderland there. And she's got big, hairy animal shoes on. It's Alex Phillips.
When he said she's got a big hairy, I was like,
no, she's got these huge shoes that are like animals. There they are. Look. Can we see them? Anybody? Yeah, look at them.
Have you got that? Is that in shot? I can't.
Yeah, that is in shot. Thank God. Otherwise, you're making a complete fool of it.
They are. I got them from some mountains, the Tyrolean mountains of Austria, from some man who was a big fan of killing things.
And he killed a load of things to make.
Well, they are. This is it. Like someone just asked me, what's it? I've been